What's up, guys? Doug Polk here, and welcome back for another episode of the Doug Polk podcast. We have a double-header podcast this week. Yesterday, we were joined by Kane Callis, and today we are joined by Dan Bilzerian. I'm sure you guys know him from Instagram or Twitter or poker. Been all over the place for years now. Will be a lot of great conversations for us to talk about. But before we jump into that, I quickly want to let you guys know that today's podcast is brought to you by CoinFlex. CoinFlex is a cryptocurrency derivatives exchange and is the home of crypto yield for people to both trade and earn crypto. The CoinFlex platform provides an array of products that serve investors and traders of all skill levels, from passive beginners to active experts. What I'm most excited about with our new partnership with CoinFlex is exploring the many opportunities that people can use to make money today. Whether it's trading, automated market making, or simply holding Flex USD, there are simply so many ways to explore earning money now. CoinFlex can help you make the most from crypto, allowing you an opportunity to take charge and chart your own course to your financial destiny. So what are you waiting for? Head on over and check out CoinFlex at www.coinflex.com today. Legal disclaimer: none of the information contained here constitutes an offer to buy or sell any currency, product, or financial instrument, to make any investment, or to participate in any particular trading strategy. Okay, with that out of the way, we now bring in today's guest, Dan. Thank you for joining us.
Yep.
Appreciate you taking the time to come on the podcast.
Yeah, no, I think this will be good. I want to, clear some things up. I feel like, a lot of your videos misrepresented, what I said and mischaracterized it. And, you talked to Bill and you said to him, when I report a story, I report it with the facts and a fair interpretation of the facts. That is different than a completely accurate depiction of all events that have occurred, as it is not possible for me to launch into 1,000 investigations to determine the truth every year. I report the facts accurately and was fair in my assessment of likely events. So, I just fundamentally disagree with that. And I would be willing to bet you $1 million we could have an arbitrator or a panel of arbitrators watch the videos and determine whether or not they agree with what you said. I would bet that they would not, but that's a open offer.
Okay, well, you're coming out of the gate strong here, firing off $1 million bet on something that I was talking with Bill about. I didn't even realize that Bill was sending you those texts so that we were going to be talking about them today, but here we are. So let's just take a step back and talk big picture about the content that I've made. Obviously, I've covered you in a variety of my videos, and I think overwhelmingly my content has been both fair and accurate. And additionally, there are parts that are funny, but if you look at the content of what I said, it is fairly accurate. And the video that I think is most important is the video that did something like, it's the most viewed video on this subject. I think it has something between 1.5 2 million views. And in that video, I gave an extremely fair depiction of you where I said that it's essentially, I'm paraphrasing, but I essentially said that it's unlikely all of your money came from poker. However, it is possible, and you have likely won money in poker because you have played in a lot of soft high stakes games. And then in a Twitter conversation a few years back, you sort of misquoted me again. I feel like you've kind of constantly misquoted me on this issue. So maybe we can get to the bottom of why you think I've said some of these things, and we can pinpoint the issues.
I just feel like, listen, you have a right to have your opinion and whatever. And that's not really what I'm talking about. I'm talking about more how you've misrepresented what I've said. I downloaded or I shared a video, if you want to play it, of, your interpretation of my answer to Joe Rogan. And I think that's you've also, I think, deleted some videos that you've previously posted. So when we had our conversation yesterday, you said, if there was videos, that I had issue with, to bring that up or whatever. And I looked online and I only found, 2 or 3 videos where you mentioned me. So I think you've since deleted those, but
no, that's incorrect. I have not deleted any of my content.
Okay. The ones that I found, there's at least 2 that are pretty egregious in my opinion. And like I said, I'd be willing to bet on an impartial third party's opinion of those, because you take what I said and you chop it up. It's like if I asked you, did you rape a 14-year-old boy? And in the interview you said, oh no, I did not. And then I take a later part of the interview where you said something completely different and then splice it in there. Obviously that would be misrepresenting, what you said. And I feel like you did the same thing with the Joe Rogan, where, listen, you can comment whatever you want. You can have your opinion. But my issue is with how you misrepresented what I answered in that interview. And I've got, like I said, I downloaded the video. If you want to play it, you can see your video versus my actual answer to Joe Rogan. And it's completely different. What I said, didn't have the 15 mumbling and the stuttering, and then, cut to your interjection, and then cut to this and cut to that, and then cut to Joe's reaction to something else that I said in the video. You're basically making me look like a liar and look like I'm, unprepared to answer the question, and that I'm being, that I'm misrepresenting, the truth. And so, I'm sure that fits your narrative, and that's great for you, but that's, in my opinion, that's dishonest, and that's an, unfair depiction of the facts. So that's where I have the biggest issue. It's not what you think of my poker or whether or not you think that I got my money from a trust fund. It's how you misrepresented my answers in interviews to fit your narrative.
I think that what you're referring to there are jokes.
No, it's not a joke. When you cut up my answer and you cut it up to where it makes it sound like I'm not being truthful, or like I'm stuttering, or like I don't know what I want to say, that's you mischaracterizing and misrepresenting what I'm saying. And so that's not a joke. You can say whatever you want, but when you're chopping up my answer to make it fit your narrative, that's you misleading your audience. And I think that's, pretty egregious, to be honest.
Well, I think my audience knows that I'm poking fun at the subject. And in the scenario that you're talking about, when I show you stuttering and saying, it's as a joke that you were confused on the issue because you did stutter some. We obviously embellished it to make it funny, but that's the point of what we're doing. If you want to pull up the video, we can pull it up.
Yeah, it's on there.
All right, let's go for it. Add this to stream.
About Dan Bilzerian.
How did you get all your...
Let's see here. Okay. Let's watch the video in question.
Let's talk about Dan Bilzerian.
How did you get all your money originally?
So that's another, yeah, it's like a weird thing. I didn't really talk about it or say anything about it.
That was a great answer. What are we talking about again?
There's just a lot of things in gambling that
So to talk about that part first, those were all part of your response when he asked you how you made all your money.
I mean, it's a 3-hour interview. If you want to chop up my answers all over the place, I mean, I have the original video. So if you want to see my original answer to Joe,
right? But those clips all happened over the span of 2 or 3 minutes as part of your response to Joe when he asked you how you got your money, correct? It's not like it's not like it was about the...
You're cutting to his reaction to something else. I mean, here it is. I've uploaded the actual Joe Rogan interview right here.
How did you get all your money originally?
So that's another common misconception. And I didn't really talk about it or say anything about it just because it helped me out so much in poker. But everybody just thought that I was, a rich trust fund idiot. And then my parents gave me all my money. So that actually allowed me to get into a lot of these poker games.
Because they thought you were a fish.
Yeah, it's like a weird thing. It's not just that, but in poker, I've noticed that if a guy loses money to another guy and he knows that that money is going to help that other guy out or his quality of life is going to be improved by that money, it really fucking irritates him.
Really?
Yeah, and I'm guilty of it too. If I lose $5 million to a billionaire, it doesn't bother me nearly as much as if I lose maybe a couple $100,000 to some guy that's like pretty broke and now he goes out and buys a new fucking car with my money and I'm just like, this fucking guy, you know what I mean? Like,
oh, that's weird.
I don't know why, and it's kind of counterintuitive, But another thing about it is, like, if you lose money to a guy that has a bunch, like, you always think that, there's a chance you could win it back too. So there's that piece of it. If you lose money to a guy that doesn't really have much and he goes out and spends it, well, like, you're never getting it back again.
Yeah, that exists in pool. Like, a lot of guys don't want to gamble with guys who only have one barrel.
Yeah,
like a guy will play a game of pool for $100, but he's only got $100, but he might have 10,000.
Exactly.
Well,
so you look at your.
I'm trying to understand here because in your response, you do say I'm a bunch and talk about random things that aren't related to having made all your money from poker.
Well,
so how is it?
It's all completely related if you listen to the video. I mean, I'm basically, this is the first time that I truly tell people that I made my money from poker. And I say it right in here that as, up until that point, I've kind of leaned on the, whole trust fund thing because it's given me access to games, because people will then assume that I have a lot more money and they'll be willing to lose more money to me because of that. So everything that I'm saying here is directly related to the question. And it makes sense if you understand the context, which you took it out of context. And you also added a reaction of Joe where he's like looking at me like I'm full of shit, which didn't happen during this period. So you've like really chopped it up and misrepresented what was actually said in the interview to, like I said, to fit your narrative, which I find misleading.
A couple different points to make here. The first is that I'm not the editor. We can definitely get Thomas here as well. But I'm willing to take responsibility for Thomas's work because I always have anyway. Regardless of that, I watched this clip of you and Joe Rogan, and when he asked you, he eventually had to bring it back to asking you again, did you make all your money from poker? And then you said yes, because your answer was long-winded and wasn't a part of the original question. So it actually
it was directly related to the original question, and it was, like I said, the first time that I really kind of told people that, because up until that point I had really leaned on the trust fund thing because that was what gained me access to a lot of these games. I mean, part of poker is having an image and understanding how people view that image and understanding how people are going to perceive you at the table and play against you and so on and so forth. So when people ran around saying, oh, he's a trust fund idiot, and I didn't dispute it, and I kind of leaned into it because I did in fact have a trust fund, I just didn't have access to it until I was 35. That helped me. And like I said, when I was doing this interview, it was kind of at a crossroads. I was like pretty much done with poker. So I was okay just, laying it out there. But up until that point, I hadn't really ever discussed, what my trust fund was. Did I have access to it? Did it affect, my poker, all this stuff? So that's why when he asked me that, it took me a second to answer, but it was, my answer was an explanation of why I hadn't just like fully discussed it before. And I think it makes complete sense.
But do you not also, it's in the interview, would you not also say that when he asked you this question, you didn't respond by saying, yes, I've made all my money from poker. You said it's a weird thing, and you talked about a bunch of other stuff before he eventually had to bring it back to asking you again, did you make all your money from poker? Did that not happen?
It did, but it wasn't a bunch of weird stuff. It was stuff directly related to me making my money from poker. And it was
you said it's a weird thing. I'm quoting you. You said it's a weird thing, and then you talked about a bunch of other stuff, and then he had to ask you again. So in your answer, me showing a short clip of you talking about other stuff and then bring it back to that afterwards is actually accurate in what happened in that conversation.
Well, you cut out when I said it's a common misconception, and then I went in to discuss it. And the common misconception was that, I had gotten all my money from my trust fund. And so I explained that. So it was, you conveniently cut out when I said, well, whatever. And then I said, it's a common misconception. I mean, that was a key piece that you cut out. And then you went to more like, and then you cut to a reaction from Joe that was like later in the interview.
Dude, I was making a joke because you gave a 2-minute response to a question, did you make all your money from poker? That wasn't if you made money from poker or not. So I put together a 10-second clip of funny stuff that was all said in there, and then he had to direct the question back at you. I don't see how that's misrepresenting you. It's not.
I would argue that it is. And, Bill's willing to bet $1 million as well, that it's misrepresenting the facts and that's not like a fair assessment or whatever. I mean, like I said, I'll go by your words, and I would argue that somebody that watched that would say that you are trying to skew your viewers' opinion of what I responded with. And, there's other examples of it too. I mean, there's the GG Poker video where you like chopped up a piece where I was talking about a guy that didn't know the poker hand rankings, and somebody had to go out to a gift shop and get the poker hand rankings and bring that to him to show him that a full house beat a flush in a $500,000 pot at the, Bellagio. And you tried to like make that about you, where I was talking about you using poker software, which is like ridiculous. And I've got those videos too. Like I said, you've got a habit of misrepresenting what I'm talking about and trying to get it to fit. And what I'm saying is, if you're going to be, standing on this pillar of like, oh, I'm just, interpreting what I, the facts, or I'm just, I'm telling people what my opinion is or whatever, and I'm not, doing anything unethical, I would disagree, because I think, like I said, you're misrepresenting what I'm saying. And I think you're doing it by chopping up my answers. And I think that's, fundamentally pretty fucked up.
offer to bet me $1 million, and this is something I see time and time again from people. It's a posturing technique. Oh, I'll put $1 million on it just to be able to say, oh, $1 million. Because
No, I'll legitimately bet you that.
I know that you will. I'm not saying that you won't, but the reality is $1 million is a lot less money to Bill and probably you than it is to me. So really, you're trying to get me to put $1 million on something that I just am not bankrolled to take $1 million prop bets on someone looking at a video and deciding if they think it's fair or not. I'm just not willing to do
half a million. I'm willing to bet on their interpretation of what you said, like literally your words. So you're, like what you texted Bill. I mean, I can, like I said, I sent it to you, or I mean, I can send it to you. I can, read it to you. I did. It's what you said. I reported the facts accurately and was fair in my assessment of likely events. I just fundamentally disagree with that.
I mean, what are we going to read my text on the podcast? That's what we're turning this into. Is just
we could for the arbitrator. You're talking about the bet, so I'm saying for the arbitrators would read that and then would show them the videos and they could determine whether or not they think that's a fair interpretation of the facts.
And also in these text messages, I said, you know what? Let's keep Bill out of this and just keep this about us. And you fire off with an immediate text from Bill.
Well, I didn't say who it was from. You said his name.
You said Bill. You said it was from Bill.
Did I say that?
You said Bill. You said Bill and read my text message. And then
there's a lot of Bills in the world. I mean, it's not like I named the guy. I read a text and it's just basically
you did name the guy. You named him Bill. That's a name.
There's fucking 100 million Bills in the world. Whatever. I mean, like the point is, I'm not making this about him. I'm just, giving you an example of your statement. And I'm saying, I don't feel that your statement is accurate. I think that it's misleading and you're standing on this pillar of like truthfulness. And I just think it's bullshit. And let me give you
an exact quote because you're actually in a way doing what you're accusing me of doing because I have done a lot of content revolving around you and other famous people in poker. And rather than look at the entire body of my work, you're honing in on the little things that you don't like or that you think is unfair without looking at some of the things that are certainly fair. And I want to read you an exact quote of something that I said in the most popular video. This is in minute 1. People can go to YouTube and they can read this. This is an exact quote. Dan, however, sticks to the story. He made all of his money. And while that seems very unlikely to me, we are never actually going to know for sure because he still does play a lot of high stakes poker and probably has won a lot of money there as well. That is the most popular video in the first minute of my most popular video on you. That is a completely fair statement. So why are we not going to focus on things like that? And we're still going to focus on one video where I made a joke about you saying several times before answering Joe's question.
Okay. I mean, it would be like if I went down the street and I, handed 10 bums $100 and then I ran one over my car and you're like, but I helped 10 guys out. I said something good. Or like I ate an apple before I had McDonald's. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't negate, the egregious misrepresentation of what I said. And so to me, it's like, that's basically like the pillar that everybody else that's done videos on me has stood on is like you saying that, you don't think that it's possible that I made all my money from poker, which is bullshit because I did. And I can actually pretty much prove all that. So, we could also talk about that. I mean, I can show you I didn't cash in my trust fund till, 2019. And my trust fund was not a significant amount of money. It was like a couple $1 million at the time. So, and I bought my jet in 2014, paid cash. So it's like I had made a shitload of money. And you can also talk to, Andrew Roble. He had 5% of every time that I played Alec Gores. And it was around $40 million I beat him out of. And Andrew Roble can show you that. Because like I said, for coaching me, I gave him 5% of my win. So he knows exactly what I won and lost. And just that alone, that's more money than you've made in poker. So like one guy I did in 1 year, I made more money than you've made in your whole poker career. And most poker players too, by the way.
What percentage of that did you have of yourself?
It varied.
Because you said you sold 5, but how much did you actually have of yourself?
I gave Rick 10%, and then he made me, I don't know, Rick probably made me like 30 million back off Andy Beal. So it was kind of like an even swap there.
He made you 30 off Andy Beal?
Yeah, I made, no, I got like 10 and a half. He beat him for 42 million in one session. I had 25% of that. And then he beat him on a few other occasions. Maybe it was around like 20 million. But I mean, listen, dude, just between those two guys, like I made $70 million. Like, I don't think that, and Sam, I beat him for like over 10. So I'm just, those three guys, that's like 70 million fucking dollars. And I don't know a lot of poker players that have made $70 million. So you know, you guys saying that you don't think that I've made a lot of money in poker. Well, I can point to 3 guys that's more than, you know, you and probably your whole poker crew has made in your whole career. And I did that in a year. So, I mean, you know, and you're saying that I got it from my trust fund. Like I said, I can disprove that as well, because I didn't cash my trust fund until 2019. I have the trust documents and the wires.
You constantly misquote me, and we had the same argument on Twitter in 2018 where we went back and forth, and you just misquoting me on things. I didn't say that. I've never said it's impossible that he made money in poker. It's impossible he's won money in poker. I've not said that at all. I've had lots of caveats, and I've even said I think that it is likely you've won in a lot of the games that you play in because those stakes are very soft. So why are you misquoting me? And you're misquoting me back. You're accusing me of deleting videos. You're accusing me of all this shit I didn't do. And
well,
then
I mean, here's your quote. I don't remember what exactly it was. You said,
and then my parents gave me all my money.
They're right there. You said, and my parents gave me all my money. You just cut to what I said, and I said a lot of people think that my parents gave me all my money. And in your video, you said you just cut to where I said my parents gave me all my money, cutting out where I said people think that my parents give me all my money. So once again, you're misquoting me. But hold on, we're
Dad Bilzerian.
Here we go.
All his money. My parents gave me all my money, so Paul Bilzerian.
it's a joke, Dan. That is clearly humor.
Then you say, hold on.
It's clearly a joke.
Yeah,
It's,
a weird
I mean,
thing.
it's not clearly a joke.
It is clearly a joke. I Google and read a name and then put a 1-second clip of you saying my parents gave me all my money.
I mean, it's just one more example of a misrepresentation. I said people think that my parents gave me all my money, and you cut to where I said my parents gave me all my money. That's another clear, egregious misrepresentation of what I said. That's like me saying I did not kill this person, and you fucking cut to I killed this person. I mean, and cutting out the not. I mean, that's exactly what you did, and it's fucking total bullshit.
Do you think that? Let me get your take on comedy and jokes in general. Are jokes okay, or they misrepresent people?
It depends on what it's talking about. You know, I mean, if it's talking about like something that's serious and that's going to negatively affect somebody's their reputation, and you're misrepresenting what they said, I would say that's not a joke. If you're just, you know, talking shit, then that's a totally different story. But when you're using my quotes and you're chopping up what I said to fit your narrative, that's not a joke. That's you misconstruing, you know, what's been said.
So let me just get the facts straight here. You've won how many dollars roughly in poker? 100 million, 70 million, whatever it is, right? Millions and millions of dollars.
Like I said, those 3 people, that's 70 million.
Okay, $70 million. And you're sitting on $70 million in poker winnings, and you're getting upset that a YouTuber that is far more poor and unsuccessful than you is making a joke about where you really got your money, and you're upset about that? That doesn't even make sense.
It's not about that. It's about you questioning my integrity and you basically making me out to, you know, be a liar. And you, like I said, chopping up things that I've said. It's not about how much money I've made. Look, my whole poker career, I've laughed at people like you that, you know, oh, Dan, it sucks, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm fucking sitting there playing with a bunch of fucking, you know, super rich dudes, beating them for fucking tens of millions of dollars while you idiots are grinding out online for fucking scraps. I mean, it's funny to me. Like, you know, I laugh at that shit. But what I don't laugh at is when you mischaracterize what I said and you accuse me of being a liar and call me a fraud or whatever the fuck it is. Like, that stuff to me is a lot different than when you're, you know, like saying that I don't care if you say that I suck at poker. I've never professed to be the best poker player. Back when I was playing, I was like one of the best players. And because and by one of the best players, I was winning the most money, and I got people to play bad against me. It's not always about making the exact right move in a situation. It's about whether or not you can exploit somebody and make the most amount of money off of them. So sometimes you have to give up some EV. Sometimes you have to do bad things. If in the future they're going to stack off for fucking, you know, whatever, 1,200 fucking big blinds, the top pair, because they don't believe you. I mean, there's like a lot of things in there. There's meta. It's not just about, you know, doing things technically correct. And you always, like, you know, you pointed to that session that I played in a fucking 10-20, which is like, dude, I flipped a quarter for $3.6 million before that game. Like, you think that I'm going to take a 10-20 game seriously? We're obviously fucking around. I'm like trying to put people to test all the time. And so it's like, whatever, man, I don't care. Like, if you want to point to that and be like, oh, Dan sucks at poker because of this session.
Care. You do care, obviously.
No,
you
I
obviously
don't care about that. I care about you saying that I'm a liar. That's what I care about. And about you misrepresenting what I'm saying to make me look like a liar. That's what I care about.
That video you're talking about, the 1020 thing, where you're saying again, this I'm rich, don't care, it's for lots of money or less money or whatever it is. I understand that you've made a lot of money in poker, or you're rich, or whatever your family's rich, whatever the situation is. That video took me 60 minutes that I made one day, where I analyzed your play while you were playing poker, and I had that precursor that I quoted earlier. So that video was not only 100% fair. 100% fair. I'm willing to bet on that video specifically. If you
I
want
have
to bet,
no issue with that video. That's fine.
okay.
It's just an example.
Well, you just did have an issue with it. You just did have an issue with it. You said to me that I'm analyzing this video like you fucking care. Well, guess what? When you play poker and people can watch you, and we have not gotten to see you, and then you're out there claiming to have made infinite piles of money playing, then yes, it is going to reflect on you if you play terrible. And there were a bunch of bad plays in that session. And just because the money doesn't matter to you, it still will reflect back on your poker ability. I don't know. What do you want from me? What do you want from me there? What
that
okay.
One's fine. It's whatever. You're interpreting my play at low stakes. It's fine. I mean, I'm not bringing that up as being an egregious thing. Like I said, the mischaracterization of what I've said is the egregious piece. That is what I have issue with. I don't care if you guys think that I'm a bad player. I've never, like I said, professed to be this great player. But what I've been good at is getting in good spots. And that's one of the things that like the poker community just like cannot seem to wrap their fucking hands around, is that the biggest piece of poker is figuring out how to win the most amount of money in the games. And the best way to win the most amount of money is to play against the worst fucking players that guys like you are not going to be able to play against, because you've built, this reputation of being a great fucking poker player, which is cool. It's great. You can do training videos, but you can't win big money. So you chose to go down that route. That's fine. No problem. I chose to go down the route of winning the most amount of money I could possibly win in the shortest period of time. And, whatever, it is what it is. But, that's not what I have issue with. Like I said, I have issue with the mischaracterization of what I said.
Let's talk about that route for a second, because a big part of that route is your family. You say you got no money from your dad until you were 35. And even if we go along with that line of thinking, I'm not saying that's not true. I'm saying we don't know. The public doesn't know, right? If you made all your money playing poker and you have a very rich family, you have a story that's extremely credible to get into a lot of these games, right? Because you can say it came from my family. That's a very credible story. In fact, it's so credible that that's why the public today thinks that it's not true you made all your money from poker. And that's why people like me don't think it's true you made all your money from poker, because it's an incredibly credible story for someone that is extremely rich to have kids that show up and have a lot of money that it came from them. Obviously, that's a credible story. So when you say that was your route and that was your reason why that's how you made your money, you were focusing on that. Well, most people don't get to have the opportunity to have a rich family and to pretend to be rich and to have that type of background where they can easily get into these games. You talk about my poker ability. The reason I became well-known from poker was because I had to build myself online playing poker. I was under 21 when I started my career as I came up in the stakes. I didn't have an opportunity to get into games because my family was rich, where I could beat idiots for lots of money. I had to actually earn it by playing extremely fucking tough people. And you can laugh at me for the scraps I played for. I'm really fucking proud of my history in poker. I beat all of the best players. I played the absolute peak of the game, and I really mastered my craft. Yeah, I didn't have a rich family that got me into private games so I could make millions of dollars. I'm okay with that, and I'm not here to try and prove people that I have millions of dollars.
Yeah. I mean, I got into private games, before that. Like I got into Nick Cassavetes's game because I was splashing around and I was playing, super loose at the Bellagio. And that's how I got into the game. Not because he thought that, I had, trust fund money, but whatever, look, you use what you got to do to get into these games. Some of it's, maybe you play looser than, you should, maybe you give more action, whatever, but there's a lot of different ways. One thing that I never did was try and make everybody think that I was good. In fact, I did the exact opposite because I felt like it helped out, and it did. I got way more action. You can talk to guys like Andrew Roble. I mean, he's like, one of the more credible guys, I think, in the poker world. I mean, he's done tons of business. He's won a shitload of money, and he's been there with me since fucking, 2006. He's seen me playing at, the block. He's watched me win, monstrous amounts of money from bad players over and over and over again. And he even did a vignette in my book talking about that. Antonio Esfandiari, JRB. I mean, any of these guys, you can ask them. Rick Solomon, they've all seen me win tons of money. I mean, I used to run a game. I mean, I got tipped $100,000 a night, at least in my games, and I got to, take pieces of good players. I mean, there's a million ways to make money in poker, and I made a shitload of money in poker. I just didn't do it the traditional way.
Well, apparently there's not a shitload of ways to make money because you've insulted all the online people who came up in those streets.
I
And
came up online. That's how I started playing. I was playing on Party Poker, Bodog, all that shit. I mean,
you did well. Did you win on those sites?
Yes, I did. I think, the biggest winner in Bodog's history. I won 400,000 in 1 month playing Bodog at 1020, where the max buy-in was $2,000 and you could only play 3 tables. I won 400,000 in 1 month on that site. And this was like back in fucking 2007 or 8.
Did you win money on Party Poker?
I don't remember if I was I didn't think I played much Party Poker. I played more on Bodog because they had a sports book and people would wander in there from the sports book and just fucking blow their money in the poker room. Like, I was always looking for the angle. I wasn't trying to play against the best players all the time. So
that's fine. But right now we're talking about 400K, which is only 200 buy-ins online. That's really not that many buy-ins. So I'm trying to figure out where the rest of these online winnings came from.
1 month of only playing 3 tables where the max buy-in is $2,000, winning 400K is a lot.
Yeah, but dude, we're talking about 400K. That's not how you built. That's not how you got to where you are today. That's not crushing online.
That's 1 month. That's 1 month. So I mean, if you extrapolate that out, that actually is a lot of fucking money for a 10-20 player to be winning $5 million a year on average. That's a lot of fucking money. You show me a 10-20 player that wins $5 million a year.
Okay, but you didn't win $5 million a year. You won 400K.
I'm just saying that was 1 month. I had weeks where I would win, $80,000 playing 5-10 heads up. So I mean, like, I had big fucking wins on that site, like, for small stakes, because they didn't have big stakes at the time. So I came up online. Like,
you didn't come up online. You had 1 month on Bovada.
No, I played for years online.
Okay, then
in fact, that's primarily where I fucking played.
Where else did you play? What screen names? How much did you win? Let's get some kind of facts going here.
I mean, Blitzforce was my screen name on Bodog, and I fucking won money on that site for sure.
Okay, 400K, but you're saying you played for years.
That was 1 month. I'm just saying that was like my biggest month on there was 400K, and that's like when I dropped out of college, and then I was playing more live at Bellagio. But during my college, I was playing a shitload on Party Poker. I was playing on Poker Stars. I was playing on Bodog. I was playing on all the sites. So like, that was in college primarily where you had to play.
I'm not trying to nitpick here, but I think it's important for the sake of this discussion. When you say you played for years online and you reference 1 month on one site as we won 400K, that is a good month, obviously, for those stakes on that site. But we have to look at the entire.
Anybody won more than that on Bodog?
For 1 month is totally possible. I don't know what the records are for Bovada, but we have to look at the entirety of your work online. When you were saying that you played online, you won online. Did you win on any other sites over that time period? How much money did you win online over what period of time? Give me some estimates here.
You're asking me what I won in 2005. That's almost 20 fucking years ago. Like, I don't remember exactly what my stats were 20. I mean, what were you doing 20 years ago? Like, I mean,
I was in high school. I was a freshman in high school. I just moved from Las Vegas to North Carolina.
Yeah. I mean, so like, but could you have told me, like, what you fucking ate for lunch on, you know what I mean? Like, I don't remember.
I'm not asking what you ate for lunch. I'm asking for estimates on how long you played online and how much you won. That's not that hard.
I played online from 2003 until probably 2008-ish. Yeah.
Okay, so 5 years online. And how much did you win over that time?
I don't remember what the wins were over that period of time, but it was, because I was playing live, I was playing online, I was flying into, like, when they had the PCA, I was playing in the Bahamas, we were playing on a yacht, I was playing Eddie Ting's game. I got into Nick Cassavetes's game. So I was like bouncing around, and I don't remember exactly what I was winning, on each thing. I mean, like I said, it's 20 fucking years ago. I remember like ballparks of like what I would win per year, but I don't remember, how much of it was on this site, how much was it at Nick's game. I mean, it would ebb and flow. I would have, winning and losing months.
So you can't ballpark online. All you remember is your 1 month you had in Bovada. Everything else
It's Bodog.
It's the same. Bodog is Bovada. It changed names, but Bodog then, yeah. It's the same
Yeah,
thing.
I mean, look, all I'm saying is that I had the fucking biggest month in, I think, Bodog's history at the time. And I remember sitting at tables with like $50,000 at a 2K buy-in, and everybody's just like, what the fuck? And people would play bad against me. I remember people had like, I would see their like notes on me. And so people would just play really bad. I would get, a bunch of fucking action. And, it was a little bit swingy, but at the time people weren't playing loose aggressive. So, it was, it was, it was more of a roller coaster, but I think it was probably the most profitable strategy. And now that's pretty much what people are doing.
There's an issue though with the way that you're saying this, because as an example, I played online poker for, I don't know, a decade, 8 years, whatever it was. And I had a month where I won 700K. So I could say 700K in a month. That's like winning 8.5 million a year. But I didn't. I won 700K in 1 month.
What stakes was that at?
Probably mainly 200, 400, 300, 600. There's a lot of Lhasa battles, Isildur, that kind of stuff.
So that's literally 100 fucking X what I was playing, or 10X or whatever. You know what I mean? Like you're talking about almost winning the same amount at 10X the stakes.
Right, but you're the one saying that it'd be like winning 5 million in a year, but it's not like that. It's like 1 month. It's cherry picked, right? So the reason I think this is important is you're trying to build, and I think where we're kind of driving with this conversation in general is your background. You're saying is you made all your money from poker, right?
Yeah.
And so because of that, this story is important, and those facts matter. And when you have a story like you do with your dad, where your dad is very rich and successful, and you're his son, then we're going to have some very credible facts as to the way you made your money, where you played, how you won. And if you're saying you play online and you won, then that stuff's easy to prove. We can actually go in and get the party poker hand histories almost certainly.
Good. Go on Bodog. Get the hand histories. I played poker for a living for 14 years. It's not like these are like small sample sizes. Like I said, you've got guys like Andrew Roble who literally played private games with me for 10 years straight, had pieces of me. I had pieces of him. Like he watched me play. You got guys like Rick Solomon. Like I said, the guy's probably, won me at least $20 million fucking dollars. I've won him a bunch of money. Like, and I was staking a lot of players. I was putting a lot of players in games. I mean, I was running a game for years. I mean, so it's not like I was this like small piece of the poker community. I was literally like running the best game in LA for years. I mean, it's not guys that you play with because you can't get in these games, but you can easily talk to them. JRB. I mean, I staked JRB. I mean, like I said, I've had pieces of a lot of these different pros, and they've watched me play. So if you have any, if you actually wanted to do some research, you could talk to these people because they've seen me play. They've watched me play for years and years. So like, and they all know that I beat Alec for, around $40 million fucking dollars. That wasn't a big secret. I mean, so this stuff is verifiable. I have fucking wire transfers. It's not like I'm just like pulling this stuff out of my ass.
I know firsthand, to give you a little bit of credit here, firsthand that a lot of these heads of victories are true. So I'm not denying that you didn't beat these people for a bunch of money. Heads up. I know that these matches happened, and you're certainly a better poker player than a lot of these business guys that you're playing. Heads up, obviously. The question here is where you got all your money from, and did it all come from poker? And that's really what we're trying to drive at here.
I think that's the easiest thing. Like you're saying that it's from a trust fund. I can literally show you the trust documents of what it is and when I got them and when I cashed it out. I mean, I have it in my book. I literally put the screenshots of the wire transfers, what the trust was. I mean, I can show you the trust documents. I mean, my accountant did a vignette in there. Like, it's not hard to track this stuff. Like, it's not some big mystery. Like, if I got some big fucking trust fund, there's like a tax liability. It's not like something that like goes.
I didn't say trust
radar.
fund.
Like,
I never said trust fund. I don't believe. I can't say 100% because I've said a lot of things over the years, but I don't think I ever said trust fund.
Okay.
Your dad can give.
My dad did not give me any money.
But he could give you money that's not in a trust fund, right? He could have cash. He could have. There are a bunch of ways he could give you money that are not trust fund, right? Obviously,
there are, but he did not.
Right,
and it would have been difficult for him to do that. Obviously, there would have been like tax liabilities. That's why people set up trust funds, is so that it's not like taxable. Because if he just handed me, or you wired me $1 million, like I have to pay, whatever 40% fucking tax on that. That's why they set up trust funds. I mean, that's for the whole purpose. So like, why wouldn't he just put it into a trust if he already had a trust? Why is he just going to like hand me money that I would be, heavily taxed on, and that obviously like, isn't going to be under the radar? I mean, this was like long before crypto. So there was no way to like it's not like my dad had this big duffel bag full of cash. When you're on Wall Street doing corporate rating, they don't like pay you in fucking cash. He's not a drug dealer. So like, he doesn't have large amounts of cash. If he wanted to send me money, it would be in a fucking wire. And I didn't get any wires from my father. So like, this is not like hard. I mean, and they would have come after him, by the way, for that too, because he owed money to, the government. So if he's sending out wires or transferring money, I mean, that's super illegal. And, they would have come after him for it. I mean, it would have been like it would easily show up. Right. Because like money doesn't just come into a fucking bank account. Like, how's he going to give me this money? Like, what is your best guess as to how he would have given me money or how he gave me money? Since you think that he gave me money, how do you think that would happen?
Why can he not give you cash? I don't understand that.
Because he worked on Wall Street. When you make money on Wall Street and you're taking over billion-dollar companies, they don't pay you in duffel bags of cash.
I know, but he can withdraw cash at the bank. He can have someone that
can't
owes
go
him
to
money.
the bank and just be like, hey, give me $1 million in cash. Like
Yes,
you
you
guys
can.
are red flags that would draw you. It's like hard to get 10 grand from the bank. Like
You-
and that would have showed up, by the way. And then when they had judgments against him, they would have pulled that up in court. Like they were trying to figure out like where his money is or whatever. Like if he withdrew like millions of dollars in cash, that would have been the biggest fucking IRS red flag in the fucking world.
Let me give you an example. Let's say that he had some kind of investment or bet with a friend and he won and he had $500K or $1 million to collect. He could say, why don't you give that to Dan? And then now he's not going to have to deal with this wire.
He's not a poker player, and and normal people don't just like bet $500,000 with their friends and say, "Hey, by the way, wire it to my son." I mean, like this is like such a ridiculous hypothetical.
I don't think it's that ridiculous. Your dad has.
But what I'm trying to say to you is that if my dad wanted to give me money, he literally would have just put it into the trust fund, and it would have been tax free, and it would have been fine. Like all the money that my dad wanted to give me, he put in that trust fund. So like if there was extra additional money that he wanted to give me, he would, and there was a reason why he didn't want me to get the trust fund until I was 35. He wanted me to make my own money. So why would he have a due date on the trust fund of like 35 and then just randomly hand me fucking money or send me money? Like the whole reason he made it 35 was so that I didn't have any help from him. That was the purpose. Like most people don't make it 35.
He's your dad. He can decide that he wants to help you. And when you're rich and powerful, like your dad is, you can find ways to get your kid money. This is not rocket science. Rich people have been finding ways around things for a very long time. I'm sure if your dad said, you know what, I really want Dan to have 100K for me, which by the way, you know what I got from my parents? I got free room and board, and then it was on your way. Good luck in the world, right? So I
got the same thing. I went in the military at 18. Like the one thing I got from my dad was he gave me a Jeep Grand Cherokee when I was in the military after I made it through Hell Week. So that's the one thing that I got from him. He didn't give me any fucking, things of cash. He didn't give me any wires. He literally gave me zero money. And I would bet you on that too. We can hook him up to a lie detector test.
I don't need to bet on the Grand
I'm
Cherokee
saying,
or
like,
lie detector.
If you want, we could hook him up to a lie detector test. You can ask him whatever you want. I would bet that he hasn't given me any fucking large chunks of money.
Here's the main problem. Here's the core issue. You've been telling everyone in these games that you're rich because of your family, and you've been using that to get into games.
No, people have been perpetuating that, and people have been saying, "Oh, he's a trust fund kid." And if people asked me if I had a trust fund, I wasn't lying by saying that I did. I didn't.
Earlier on this podcast, you said you tried to find money, make money the easy way, not the hard way, and you did that by getting into these games because essentially people thought your money came from your family, and you pride yourself on not telling people how good you are at poker. So obviously your strategy here was people thought you're rich in your family, and you used that to get into games. I mean, come on, that's obviously what your strategy was, right?
Okay.
Obviously. So there's nothing wrong with that. But here's the core issue. You've been doing that for many years, and now after years of that, you're trying to say, actually, guys, I'm a really good poker player. Believe me now. It actually was poker, not these things. So you're kind of trying to have your cake and eat it too here. You want to be the guy in the rich family, use that as your image to get into these games, and then afterwards be like, oh, I actually made it all from poker. But the reason that people are going to have a hard time believing that is if people believe the first story when you're coming up in poker or you're coming up in these games and they believe you're a rich family, and now later you're saying, oh, it was actually poker. Well, there's not really fucking proof either way. When you say my dad,
there actually is proof because, like I said, there's people that played poker with me shoulder to shoulder for 12 years, like Andrew Roble. There's people like Antonio Sfondiari, like credible people in the poker world. Mike Matisow did a vignette for my book. Antonio Sfondiari did a vignette in my book. Like all these people played with me. Keith, I've staked tons of these people. You got JRB, you've got Rick Solomon. You've got a bunch of like extremely credible people in the poker world that have made tens to hundreds of millions of dollars, and they will vouch for me playing and winning money. So it's not like this is some like smoke and mirrors, mystery poker game that I popped up in here or there. No, like I said, I ran a poker game in LA for years, the best poker game in LA, which I refuse to have any good players in. And if there was a random good player that had to fill a seat, I got a piece of them. So like there was, it's not, like I said, it's not like I'm just showing up like, oh, I just want all this money in poker. It's like, no, I've been playing poker for a living for 14 fucking years. Like I was one of the pioneers of this shit. So like, I don't understand. You shake your head. Who has been playing poker longer than me? Like,
I think Doyle, when you think pioneer, I think you kind of got to give it to Doyle, right?
Okay, but I'm saying like one of the pioneers of like the internet stuff, like I was playing back when like Durr was, one of those guys, like, obviously like not the pioneers of poker, but like when the internet hybrid of poker came about, when like, Chris Moneymaker came on the scene, when poker became mainstream, I was there at like the very beginning. I got lucky. I got in at poker in the fucking absolute right time at the right place. It was being adopted by mainstream. Celebrities were playing. Rounders had come out. Chris Moneymaker used $25 to win, millions of dollars. And bam, it was the poker gold rush.
How can you be a pioneer of the hybrid of both when you don't even know how much you made online or how it went over those years? What you really are is you're the pioneer of using your family's image to get into really good games and beat fish at high stakes. You're definitely the pioneer.
I had to make that money before I got into those games in order to play those games, which I did.
Right, but online, there's really no evidence here other than, let's just say that the 400K made a month is true. It probably is. You don't even know.
I did not average 400K a month.
I know. I didn't say that. I'm saying you made 400K in a month.
Yep.
But you're saying you pioneered the hybrid of these two things.
No. I did not say. I was saying I'm one of the pioneers of poker. I came in when poker was becoming well known, and I made more money than anybody else that I know of during that time. During the time that I played, I made more money than any other poker player that I know of, other than Rick Solomon.
But when you said hybrid, online and live, right? You just said that a few minutes ago.
Yeah, that's where I learned how to play poker, was online.
Okay, so but when you say you're a pioneer of the hybrid, what you really mean is of just the live poker, right? Because the online, there's not records there really, and
there are records. You said you could find them. Go look up Blitz Force on Bodog.
Okay, we have this one site where you won 400K, but what I'm saying is,
it wasn't just 400K. Like I said, I had weeks where I won 87,000 playing 5-10 heads up. Like, I was playing heads up on there. I was playing, I did the sit and goes on Party Poker. I was playing a lot online. I initially went broke in the first like year and a half playing online. I was like playing high stakes. I wasn't very good. And then, like I said, that's why I wanted you to read the book, is because I specifically line out exactly what I did, when, who I won money from, exactly the time periods. I started playing poker, and I wasn't great, obviously, in the beginning. I went broke, and then I bought a one-way ticket to Vegas after playing on a gambling boat, and I won $187,000 at the Bellagio after 3 weeks. Like, I took that money, I went back, and I like had a new gained, self-control, because I would play too aggressive. I would fucking bluff too much. But people at the time weren't really playing like that. So once I was able to like rein it in, people would play really fucking terrible against me. And I would actually play more conservative. I would open a lot of pots. I'd play loose aggressive, but then I would get paid off in spots that other guys would not get paid off in. And I would get my money. And it was actually lower variance to play like that than it was to like make the correct time bluffs, because when I got my money in, I had the fucking best hand, and these guys were drawn dead many times, and they would just not believe me. So I cultivated an image, and then I flipped and I switched gears, and I would play, pretty tight, and I would just get fucking paid off over and over and over again. And back then people weren't really fucking doing that. So I leaned on that image. It wasn't just like the trust fund image. It was the playing super fucking loose aggressive, playing really crazy, whatever. And then cashing out on, the big pots, where like I said, guys who put in fucking 1,200 big blinds, the top pair, because they just didn't believe me and they refused to fold. And so that was a big part of like how I'd play, as I would get people to play terrible against me, and guys would bluff in spots that they wouldn't normally bluff. Their lines wouldn't make sense. There's a bunch of things that I was able to exploit these. When rich guys try and fucking bluff, or they get frustrated, they do stupid shit and it doesn't fucking make sense. They're hammering the fucking turn when the flush card hits. They're hammering the fucking river when the board fucking pairs. Like, okay, what fucking hand are you representing here, jackass? Like, it doesn't make sense. So, I'm going to fucking pick you off. And it works. Like, I don't know. I don't think this is fucking rocket science playing against idiots, but apparently I have to keep explaining this, because
but it's the combination of your family and playing like that makes it especially good for you.
Okay, so anybody that like comes from money can't fucking win money in poker, I guess.
No, you can.
Got the money from their dad. That's like Rick Solomon came from a rich family. He didn't get money from his parents, but like he was able to get access to these games because he came from a rich family. Like,
yeah,
is that an advantage? Like, obviously, yeah, it's an advantage. Like, and I leaned into that. But like, can you cultivate other things? There was guys that like cultivated, they were .com billionaires that like weren't actually .com billionaires. There's a lot of guys that like slithered into these fucking games with various fucking MOs or whatever, and it worked. Like, they got in, they I would always, weed them out in my games, but
you highlighted an important point here, which is this is why a lot of people can't do what you did, what Solomon did, because even if you got $0 from your family, they're not you. They're not him.
True. That's not true.
You guys just said that.
I said that's what I use. That you don't have to use that route. Andrew Roble, for instance, he staked JRB. He gained access to these fucking games, and Andrew Roble by now might have won more money than me in poker. I mean, he's fucking crushing. The guy's murdering. He's got a fucking massive house. He's doing well. Like, he's made a lot of fucking money from poker. He's staked people. He's getting into the good games, and he is an absolute fucking pro. Everybody knows he's a good player, but he gets into these games because he put JRB in, because he put games together. Like I said, I ran a game for 2 years, which gave me access to a ton of games. Eddie Ting knew that I was a good player, but he still let me play because I had juice. I ran a game. I decided who got into my games. Like, when you run a good game in poker, you have a lot of like power to get into other games, to put people in games, to shut people out, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of ways to skin the cat here. You don't just have to have a fucking, trust fund or whatever. You could play super loose. I saw a lot of fucking good players come in the game and just fucking bomb, and they would fucking play negative EV. They would lose money, whatever. They would cultivate an image, and then they would get back, invited back into these games, and they would fucking crush it. I mean, Tom Dwan's a perfect example of that. He just doesn't have self-control, but he got into the fucking best games in the world over and over and over again. And there was times when he won crazy fucking amounts of money playing with these fucking Chinese guys that were all fucking hopped up on meth, playing in their fucking underwear at 2 a.m., in their fucking villas. Like, I saw it. So, like, they got a fucking line of hookers. I mean, I've seen all this fucking shit, right? So, like, there is many ways. Tom Dwan didn't have a fucking rich family. Andrew Roble didn't,
I know. But Tom Dwan specifically was because he became the best online. And that's what he used. And that actually worked for him because it was before we decided as a community we hated the best people online. But I wanted to go back to something that you said because I read through your book a bit before this podcast because I wanted to understand some of the segments. And it seems like the key moment where you ran your roll up, according to the book, is where you turned $500 or $750, I think something like that, into $750 into $187,000 over.
I turned it into 10 grand on a gambling boat, and then I bought a one-way ticket to Vegas. And yeah, I literally played at the Bellagio every single day for 3 weeks straight and walked out with 187 grand.
What stakes did you play for that?
Mostly 10-20. Okay. I mean, on the boat, it was 1-2 and then 2-5. And then when I went out to Vegas, it was 10-20 the whole time. Maybe a little 25-50.
Okay. So, I mean, you won 180K in 3 weeks of 10-20 and a little bit of 25-50.
Yep.
That's a pretty incredible amount of big blinds. It's like 7,000 big blinds or something.
Yeah, I would sit deep. I mean, but you can ask. I mean, listen, I was playing at Bellagio for a long fucking time. Like, and I would play at that 10-20 table a lot. Like, all the floor guys knew me. Like, it wasn't like I just like randomly show up. And they would call me when bad players came in. They called me when Goldstein came in. Like, I would fucking tip them for seats. They'd put in a fucking 10th chair for me sometimes or whatever. So like, I got into a lot of really good spots, and I wouldn't play if the game wasn't good. Unlike a lot of these other guys, a lot of these guys would just like play in any lineup. I wanted there to be, players worse than me at the fucking table. I wanted there to be people gambling. I wanted people that have good stats.
I understand that, but that win rate is roughly 80 to 90 big blinds per 100 in full ring. So there's a couple of things there. First off, it's not impossible, but it's a hard to believe story because of simply how much winnings that is in such a short period of time. And then additionally, if you're sitting in buying in deep and you only have, at the start of this run, 20, 30, 40K to your name, and you're buying in deep, if you just take one bad beat here or two bad beats here, your career can be over. You could just go bust right there.
Yeah, I took a lot of risk in my poker bankroll, and my thing was like, if I went broke, I'd just go back in the military. That was my fallback because, and I fucking, guys like Viffer did it too. I mean, there was definitely guys that like we would put our fucking bankroll on the table. I mean, I've done it before. Like, I put a fucking inordinate amount of my fucking money on the table when I played some of these heads up matches. Like, to me, it's like when I had a huge edge, I just like, I took the shot, and I did that. And so a lot of these guys, they'll fucking try and eke out a living, and they'll be super conservative. They'll want, this amount of fucking big blinds or whatever. And I was irresponsible in the beginning. It worked out for me. I mean, there was times when, like I said, I had a big edge and I just wanted all myself. I rarely ever sold action. I just kind of always wanted, the most. And I would take pieces of, like I said, a lot of guys. Like, I took pieces of Robo a lot. I would also, get these guys in games in exchange for a piece. So, there was guys that couldn't get in these games, but I would get them in the game. And that was another advantage of like playing fucking loose and, giving a lot of action, is that I would be like, well, I'm not playing unless this guy can play. And so I would literally get people in games that wouldn't otherwise be able to get in there. And I was able to make a lot of money doing that too. I mean, like I said, there's a lot of ways to make money in poker other than just, grinding it out yourself.
Absolutely true. And so actually, we're going to do a quick ad read here, and then we're going to get into a bunch of questions that the fans asked that they wanted me to cover here. But I have to do a quick ad read for CoinFlex. CoinFlex is a crypto futures exchange which sees over $2 billion in daily trading volume. What the team has built on top of this powerful futures trading engine is a suite of innovative crypto yield products. CoinFlex is committed to making crypto yield accessible to everyone, and a cornerstone of that strategy is FlexUSD. FlexUSD is the world's first interest-earning stablecoin. You can compound your interest 3 times a day, every 8 hours on-chain, meaning you can hold FlexUSD in a cold wallet and still earn interest. FlexUSD recently surpassed $360 million in market cap and has paid over $10 million in interest to holders in the last year alone. Creating FlexUSD is super simple and currently pays between 10 and 20% annually. I know this community can have mixed thoughts on cryptocurrency, but what we are talking about here is 10 to 20% return annually on US dollars. No exposure to those nasty financial downturns in Bitcoin and Ethereum price, just interest in a USD stablecoin automatically sent to your wallet 3 times a day. To learn more about FlexUSD, head on over now to www.flexusd.com. Legal disclaimer: none of the information contained here constitutes an offer to buy or sell any currency, product, or financial instrument, to make any investment, or to participate in any particular trading strategy. Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll jump into some questions here. I know no one likes ad reads, I can tell, but you know what, guys? CoinFlex, they're doing great stuff, and I'm excited to let everyone know about it. And if you guys have any questions, I've seen people want to know more about FlexUSD. Happy to answer those questions for you guys on Twitter. You can tweet at me at Doug Polk. Okay, so let's jump in here and talk about some questions that people had. And what's the highest stakes poker game you've ever played in?
10K, 25K heads up.
It's pretty high stakes. Was that versus Andy Beal?
Alec Gores.
Oh, okay, Alec Gores. What's the story with that?
What's in the book? If you want to read that, motherfucker, you lazy ass.
Do you want to tell these? We have a lot of people that are watching and listening. You want to tell them?
I'm just busting your balls. It's yeah. I mean, it's kind of a long story. I mean, like, you want the whole story of how I got in there? I mean,
however much you want to tell, man.
So I was playing in Guy Liberté's game in Ibiza, or I guess to get into that game, I had lost big at the Aria. And then I went over there and I actually lost in his game as well. And then Alec had heard about my loss, and I was playing with him at the Aria when I lost. So I was like, really firing. And we were playing pretty big. We were playing 500, 1K. And so I think it was, or maybe it was 1K, 2K. I don't know. It's pretty big for a ring game. Anyways, I lost there. I got into the Ibiza game. I lost a little bit in Ibiza, and then as soon as I returned, Alec had heard about that and challenged me to a heads-up match, and that was kind of the start of it. So sometimes, like I said, I would play, I'd fire. I mean, I wasn't like playing terribly. I wasn't just like lighting money on fire, but I would play super high variance. I would make big bluffs, whatever, and know that there was always some, like, I mean, that was kind of like the silver lining of losses, is you knew that you like gained some EV and like people thinking that you sucked, or being able to get into other games, or like the longevity of you playing in games. And so I was not afraid to, do that. And, like I said, it led to this match with Alec, and he had just taken off Andy for a big number, and he was feeling, froggy, and that was the start of it.
Okay. Gotcha. Simple enough. I wanted to talk briefly about the Vanessa Cade incident that happened late last year. You got to do a bit of a kerfuffle with her, where what was the exact quote that you said when she was talking about you? So just take a step back. GG Poker hired you as an ambassador.
Yep.
And there were mixed thoughts about that. A lot of people in the poker community felt like it was a bad look for GG and kind of poker in general to have you as an ambassador for one of the biggest online poker sites. What would you say about that?
I mean, look, everybody's got their own opinion. I mean, I think I've got the biggest platform of any poker player in the world. And like I said, I'm one of the OGs. So, I mean, and I've won a lot of money playing poker, and, but it was more on the private side. I think like the high stakes community knows who I am. They know that I played, I ran the best games, and I've won a lot of fucking money. So I think it's fine. I think they were trying to, you know, bring in a new audience. I mean, I've done some posts for them. They brought in, a ton of players. I mean, for them, they're the biggest poker site in the world right now. So they're doing well. I mean, I think I did some free tournaments and we got a lot of signups. So I think it was a net positive for them.
It's definitely a good business decision in terms of just directly traffic. I think that the question though is really, you have an image of being extremely masculine and kind of disliking women. That's at least your image. It's probably not true.
I disagree.
What are your thoughts on that?
I think somebody that dislikes women would not surround themselves by women all the time. I mean, I think that's like a little bit of a counterintuitive thing. I'm not really sure where they get that. I mean, it would be like saying Hugh Hefner hated women. It's like, why would you spend it would be like fucking, saying Lewis Hamilton hates race cars. It's like, who the fuck would surround themselves with something that they hate? It doesn't make a lot of sense. So maybe dislike is the wrong word. Maybe disrespect, that you disrespect women. And I think a lot of the people would point to examples like the throwing the girl off the roof. I mean, there's a perfect example. I mean, and that one's in the book as well. That was for a Hustler photo shoot. They asked me to throw her off the roof. They wanted me to like shot put her over my head. I was like, I don't know. That sounds a little dangerous. The girl was gung ho. She wanted to do it. And so, she wanted to do it. They asked me to do it. So I said, okay. And I told her the one thing that she had to do was let go of me, that, I was doing like a hip toss. So I was like, okay, you'll clearly make it. I only have to throw you, a few feet. Just don't hold on to me. So we did, like, you can see it in the video. We did 2 dry runs and she's got her hands up. And then on the third one, she fucking grabs a hold of my shirt and almost pulls me off the fucking roof. I mean, that's not me hating women. And then it's a perfect example of the press misrepresenting what happened. It's like, oh, Dan Bilzerian's throwing porn stars off the roof. Like, I'm just up there like chucking bitches off the roof. Like it's something to do, like this was asked of me. And I said, okay. And the girl was like gung ho on doing it, and it's, I don't know. Like I said, that's a perfect example of a misrepresentation of what actually happened versus what they said happened.
You also have to be familiar, though, with the way the media works and the way that stories can be construed. And you also can understand that probably one of the reasons Hustler wants you to do this is because it is part of your image, right? To do something like that. Like if you had to ask who in society is someone that would be throwing a porn star off a roof, and you had to go top of the list, who are the people above you where you'd be like, that guy, not me? No, I'm going to take a step back on this one.
Well, they asked me to be in a spread in the magazine, and at the time I was like, doing the fame thing because it got me more pussy and it got me into good poker games. And it was just like something I was like, okay, it's a mountain I want to climb. And so I agreed to do that. Their ideas for the photo shoot, it was, one of them was me playing poker with the girls naked. One of them was like ping pong. I mean, it was like, it was more for their brand of like what they thought their viewers would want to see. And like me throwing her off the roof was not like me being an asshole. Like we jumped off the roof every day. Like we were doing it for fun. Like we were doing flips off the roof, diving in the pool. Like we get drunk and jump off the roof all the fucking time. So it wasn't like, oh, fuck this bitch, I'm gonna throw her off the roof. It was like, this is what we do. This is fun. It's fun to jump off roofs. She wanted, you want to be thrown off the roof. I said, okay. It wasn't, I don't know. I didn't look at it any way of like being disrespectful.
But you have to know at some level, because you've seen the way the public responds to things. Obviously, you've had a lot of posts online do very well. You have to know the way that things are going to come across. And it certainly had to enter your mind when there is a video of you throwing this girl off the roof, that is going to go viral because of your image attached to it, right?
Well, it was never supposed to be a video. It was supposed to be a picture for the magazine. But obviously after she, clipped her foot and, there was issue, they didn't end up running it, but it was never really supposed to be a viral video. It was just, one of the pictures. Like they had me cleaning a gun and the girls in the background playing naked ping pong. And then one was me at the poker table. I mean, it was just like a montage of pictures. It's not like we're like, oh, let's go figure out a viral video for the internet. They didn't even record it in video format. So it was Alan Keating that like happened to be up there, recording, and he posted it and it went viral from there. So it wasn't my outlet. It wasn't Hustler. It was actually Alan Keating that, posted the video, and he didn't really have a lot of followers at the time. So nobody really, like I said, it wasn't an intended viral video. It just happened to be.
Okay. I gotcha. Going back to the Vanessa Cade thing, though, when Gigi did decide to hire you as an ambassador for the site, she voiced her concerns and
voiced her concerns. That's one way to put it.
Did she not voice her concerns?
No, I think she was just talking shit, and she was being, super abrasive and, saying, extremely rude things. And my response to her was, quiet hoe, nobody knows who you are, which is funny because, she like hitched her fucking wagon to that tweet, and like her PR team went out and like they did everything in their fucking power to like attach her name to me because nobody gave a fuck about who she was. And then because of that, they started to actually like learn who she was. So it's a bit ironic, but I would say, she is just an opportunist that, like I said, tries to exploit my name, much like you did back in the day, and
Nice.
much like many others do.
Why call her a hoe though? What's the hoe part?
I don't know. I think she called me about 15 different fucking names. So
Just hoe.
yeah, there wasn't a lot of thought that went into that.
Okay,
I mean, it
so
wasn't
it was
even a tweet. It was a response.
Was
to
it?
her tweet.
Would you say it was like a garden variety hoe?
That's what she characterized it as. So.
Oh, okay. Damn it, that joke was taken, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, so I mean, she did jump on that tweet fairly aggressively, and I thought some of the things that she did were pretty clearly opportunistic, and I did find it very funny when Gigi let her go, and they said, "How could you do this?" just the day after International Women's Day, which I thought was quite funny. But I do think when you call someone a hoe, when you call a girl a hoe like that, it's a lot stronger coming from you. Do you recognize that because your name is built so much and because of who you are, when you call a woman something like that, that it has more of a punch than if someone else does it?
I don't think so, because when I did it, it was in direct response to her attacking me, and it was sent directly to her. So the only people that could have even seen that were people that follow me and follow her. And I would assume that most of my followers obviously don't know who the fuck she is, so none of them would see it. It was really like, when you do a response tweet, unless you guys both have big followings, usually hardly anybody sees it. And you can see that because, the likes and the retweets and whatever are usually non-existent. So it wasn't really something that I put a lot of thought in, like I said, because I didn't think very many people were going to see it. And not that I would give a shit. I mean, she said a bunch of, extremely fucking, ridiculous things to me. I mean, calling me, I don't remember exactly what she said, but it was much worse than what I said to her. And then she basically like, oh my, it's like if a guy goes and like, punches somebody in the face 15 times, and then the guy bitch slaps them, and then they fall on the ground like a fucking soccer player and, act like their fucking jaw's broken, when they started the fight and they did much worse. I mean, I think it's just like kind of a fucking joke how it was, taken out of context, but.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Let's see here. What else do we have? Let's talk about Ignite briefly, because Ignite's had a lot of different news stories over the last several years. What's kind of the backstory to Ignite? And it seems like the company has pivoted a few different times along the way. Can you talk about sort of where Ignite is today?
Yeah. So initially it was started because I wanted to kind of like take advantage of the fact that cannabis was becoming legal in the US. And I thought there was a big opportunity there, being a, longtime cannabis smoker and not really afraid of the negative stigma that comes with it. And what I learned was just that the cannabis market is very difficult. I mean, it's very fragmented. You can't, ship across state lines. So it's like, and most of my audience is outside the US. So I was really like focusing like a nuclear bomb on an anthill, if you will, when I would do these posts, because it was only available in a few states. And so we weren't really able to get a lot of traction. Plus we had, it was just a lot of stuff, like bad partners. It was headache after fucking headache after headache. You're also competing against the black market, which pays no taxes. They go direct to consumer. They don't have to test. So they're, the weed's fresher, it costs them less. I mean, they don't, people would lose crops if there was like a slight amount of, heavy metals in there or whatever, but the black market, they, would sell whatever. They didn't care. They would even buy weed like that for cheap and then sell it, so it was very difficult to compete with the black market, and there wasn't a big margin. And then you would also get punished by the US government because you weren't allowed to deduct any of your expenses. They basically treat you as a cocaine dealer. You're in the same category as somebody that's a drug dealer selling heroin. You can't write off any of your employees. You can't write off any of this stuff. So it was a tough business. And we also had, some CEOs that weren't doing a very good job. Like Curtis was one of them, the guy that ended up doing the whole whistleblower thing. It's funny because the moment we fired him, we, completely turned around the company. We started, doing a shitload of sales, and, since the company's, actually doing really fucking well. I mean, I think We just did a press release saying that our October month beat our entire last third quarter in sales, and our last third quarter was, I think it was like 16 million. And then, we predicted that this quarter is going to beat our entire last 3 quarters together. So the growth rate and the sales have just been going through the fucking roof since we've switched over to, focusing mainly on nicotine vape and the spirits, which are basically things that we can sell all around the world and capitalize on, that international following.
So it's only really been one pivot then from cannabis over to more liquor based stuff then?
Well, that was the first pivot, was cannabis to liquor. And then the nicotine vape was always something that I was wanting to do. It just took us a while to do it. So I'd say that would be like kind of like it was a third. The big pivot was to the spirits. And then we added the nicotine, which we've been working on for a while. And that's really what took it off, because the nicotine is just so easy to ship. It's much less regulated. There's so many people that are using it. There's not really a lot of brands in the space. It's not a distribution nightmare. Like alcohol, a big part of alcohol is distribution. And you don't really make a lot of money in alcohol until you sell it to like a Southern Wine and Spirits or somebody like that, because they're the ones that, get the shelf space. And, otherwise you just get that, small, incremental, amount of money for each sale, whereas they get the big spread and they control the shelf space. So liquor is one of those things where you make a shitload of money when you sell the brand, but not so much as you're kind of like going to the sale.
Okay, fair. So your ultimate goal is really to find a buyer then, I imagine.
For the spirits, absolutely.
Okay.
But the nicotine's been just driving crazy sales right now. So that's what we've been focusing on.
Okay, cool. I haven't been following the Ignite thing too much. I know some people are really interested in it. I at least wanted to ask that. I had a couple of questions sort of about your philosophy and just general views on things. And I want to start with a story. I actually met you for the first time in 2009 at the Bellagio, and we played some Heads Up 5100. Do you remember that match?
I don't.
Okay, we played Heads Up 5100. I remember you sat down at a full ring table. I had to be really young at this. I had to be 22 or something like that. And you sat down and you were baked out of your mind. And you bought in for whatever, a few $100K or a couple $100K, whatever it was. And there was some guy from DreamWorks or some of the one movie.
Katzenberg.
Okay, Katzenberg.
Yeah,
and in your very first hand, you sat down, you're clearly baked, and then this guy just ends up jamming and river versus you for a huge over bet.
7 deuce, right?
Yeah. You remember this hand?
Cocksucker, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I was at the table for that.
Oh, dude, I'm still fucking tilted from that goddamn hand.
Yeah, that was great. And that was an example of a hand, I think. I forget the action or whatever now, but he basically he buffed the river with 7 deuce, right? That's what happened.
He fired a fucking huge barrel on the river, and I wanted to call him. I thought he was full of shit, but that, like you said, that's an example of these fucking people just doing these crazy fucking things against me, Right.
So that session, whatever happened, it ended up just meeting you at the table, and then we played some Heads Up and we duked it out. And you ran some very creative bluffs on me that got through. I remember there was a weird float out of position with just nothing, and you ended up firing a river where everything got there, and I was like, well, you have to have nothing, and then you just showed me the nothing. I remember that hand vividly. But what I wanted to drive at with the story was you were a really quiet, reserved guy, just very humble and nice, and you didn't talk that much really. And then I ran into you a couple times around Vegas, and you'd be like, oh, what's up, Doug? I'd be like, oh, what's up, Dan? And then a few years later, the Dan Bilzerian image started to pop up online. And I thought, man, this just seems so out of character from the guy that I met. Because when I met you, you weren't, you didn't have sort of that whole, I don't want to call it a facade, but the whole thing going like that. You just seemed like a relatively normal guy. Was there a change there, or is that an honest? Would you say that your public persona is an act, or would you say it's more like a Philhelmia where that's really you, or is it somewhere in between? What are your thoughts?
It's a good question, because I feel like I'm extremely misunderstood, and but I lined it out in the book. Like, you'll really see in there, the book is not a brag fest. I mean, it's pretty fucking humble. It's like you described how I am.
I don't know if I can say it's really fucking humble. I read about 30 minutes today, and I would not say that, but
but you didn't start at the beginning though. I mean, I started the beginning is certainly nothing to be fucking proud of. And then obviously as, success came and, and whatever, I changed a bit. I would say, to answer your question about the online stuff, that's really like a highlight reel, of my life. That's not really like, my life all the time. Right. So if you're just looking at like the 10% of the crazy things that somebody does, you're going to look at them as being a crazy person. Right. Like those things were all accurate. Those were all true. Like I was doing all that stuff, but I was also like hanging out with my buddies, smoking weed, watching movies, chilling, like, we go on surf trips, whatever. And, and then there was the countless hours playing poker and, all the non-glamorous stuff that was also my life. So I've always been a pretty humble guy. I know that my online persona, seems more braggy, and it probably is, but that's what people want to see. And that's what they respond to is the crazy stuff, right? Like me petting my cat, while there are pictures of me on my Instagram of me petting my fucking cat, aren't exactly what my audience is following for. So yeah, I mean, and a part of my Instagram, had a purpose too. I mean, it was to get laid with less effort. And then it was also, once it kind of like hit a tipping point, it was then to see if, how famous I could get and how far I could push that envelope and, what games that could get me in and so on and so forth. And also could that then lead to me having an acting career or, transitioning out of poker, because that's really what I wanted to do. Poker was fucking stressful and I didn't like it. And I wanted to stop fucking playing. And so I looked at that as like a possible way out and a possible transition and also just something new. And also like as a kid, I always wanted to be a fucking rock star. So it allowed me to kind of like live that fucking, actually like much crazier than the rock stars that I hung out with. And yeah, so it kind of,
is that the humble part right there?
it's the truth, man. I went on tour with my buddy from System of a Down, and I talk about this in the book. And like, I didn't get pussy for 3 weeks, and he barely got laid, and it was just not what I expected. And then I went to Europe after, I became famous, and I was just like knocking off chicks left and right in crazy situations that you wouldn't, ever think possible. And it was weird because I expected all this out of him, and I was just shocked when I got to live that myself.
You say that you think you're misunderstood. How are you misunderstood?
Because I think a lot of people look at my, stuff online and think that I'm, super outgoing and gregarious and fucking crazy and this and that. And I would say most of the time I'm pretty fucking mellow. Like when we're partying, we're turning up, and we're doing crazy shit. Like, yeah. And when I do the adrenaline stuff, I would say that that's probably not the norm. But I think I've just heard so many times when people meet me, they'd be like, oh, I thought you were going to be an asshole and this and that. And then they meet me and they're like, oh, you're actually like a really nice guy. There's not a lot of people, I don't think, that have met me that have really negative things to say about me. There's a shitload of people that haven't met me that do. But of the people that have met me, usually it's more similar to your story, where they're surprised or they are confused, whatever. But I don't know. I get it. I understand why, especially with the new stuff.
I think from my experience talking to people just about you in general, I think that most people have really great things to say about you one-on-one, but they don't love a lot of the act that kind of goes along with the fame and the notoriety of being Dan Bilzerian on social media. So going back to before, so would you say that a lot of that is sort of a personality and not who you really are?
Well, it depends. I think it like shifted. When I initially did this, it was like a bucket list thing. I'd made a fuckload of money playing poker. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to buy all the shit that I ever wanted as a kid that I fucking never got. My dad wasn't a flashy guy. He didn't have the fast cars, the nice watches, or the jewelry, or the hot chicks. He didn't have any of the shit that I fucking wanted. And I talk about this in the book. And I think that drove me to, really focus on that once I got my own money. And so I was like, at the same time, I had, issues with my ex. Because she was like so proud of her 100,000 followers and she was moving to LA to become famous. And so a part of it was kind of like to shit on her dreams and, Gatsby her a little bit, where I was like, moved to her city and became like, so big that she couldn't fucking turn around without hearing my name. And there was that piece of it. There was, like I said, I just wanted to see how far I could take the fame. There's all this stuff.
Why do that to her? I mean, what happened with that? Why would you?
I was like super
care?
in love with her, and she basically kind of like chose modeling. In my opinion, she chose modeling like over the relationship, and that hurt. And that was tough, And so, because I was like kind of against moving to LA, and so then I don't know. Ironically, then I moved to LA.
Well, it was to apparently show her up, right?
Well, that was like one of the things, but yeah, that was where all the money was. I mean, I went to LA because that was where the big money in the poker and the hot chicks and all the stuff that I superficially wanted was there.
Can we talk about the hot chicks for a second?
Yep.
Because I kind of don't understand this at some point, and obviously I have not been with women on anywhere near the scale that you have been. But when I was in my early 20s, I did some pickup and I did okay with the ladies for a bit, and I had some fun. And I was dating several girls, and then I reached this point where, I banged a bunch of girls, whatever. And then I reached this point where I just didn't really care anymore. I felt like I had fun with it, and I just wanted something that was more long-term sustainable. And I guess when it comes, if it was like, Doug, would you want to have all these girls constantly for forever, and you have to like talk with all these people and deal with them all the time? Like at some point, it starts to feel like a lot of responsibility. And how rewarding is that long term to have that be your long term lifestyle?
I go in phases. So I will go crazy for a while. I guess I didn't like even fully answer the question before, because like when I first got into this, I went off on a tangent, and I think this will kind of answer that a little bit too. I was doing the bucket list stuff, and so it was kind of like about like buying shit, and there was the girls and the party and all that stuff. And then I got a girlfriend around 2016 and just like chilled the fuck out. And then I started Ignite around like 2018-ish, but like started like working on it, like paving the road for it in 2017. And the thought there was that, look, if I have to take pictures in a fucking parking lot with every asshole for the next 10 years and I didn't like monetize this or do anything with it, I'm going to regret it. And so once I started doing the Ignite stuff, it was more about kind of like, I don't know, it was like doing like a more beefed up version of what I had done before and about like one-upping myself. And so I think that's probably, I was like making a lot of noise, and I felt like all the noise that I made would then translate to, brand recognition. And so it was a little different then. And I think that's like, people have pretty short memories, right? They like focus really on the Ignite stuff, but they don't realize like I'd been doing this since like 2012. And the Ignite stuff was more like just kind of like my life on steroids a little bit. And so it was different, and with the girls, it would ebb and flow, like I had that girlfriend in 2016. And then when I finally broke up with her in 2017 or 18, then I just went balls to the wall. Actually, I think I got with her in 17 and then broke up with her in 18. It was like around that. I'd have to look at the exact time. But when I broke up with her, I was just like fucking balls to the wall. And the thing about being single is like, when you're single, it's like good to be really single. And I found this in dating girls, is that when you're dating like 40 or 50 girls and you really don't give a shit and they come and go and you get new ones and old ones drop off and it's not that big a deal, you actually do much better than when like it shrinks down to a smaller group, because then the girls care more, they expect more, they actually don't treat me as good, they fall off faster, it's like they get more jealous. It's a weird thing. Like when it's like, when you kind of keep them at arm's length and you're in like that honeymoon phase of dating for a long time, I think it's better than when it's, becomes more serious. And it becomes more serious and like jealous when there's less girls, believe it or not. So I've wrestled with that a little bit because, yeah, I mean, dating a shitload of girls can be a headache. But then at the same time, you also like have so many that you really don't care. And it's like they're hitting you up and you're responding to like them wanting to hang out. So it's like very low effort. They come over, you have sex, they go do their thing, you fuck a different girl. It's like, and then I had girls staying at the house all the time. It was just like, it was easy. It was so easy that like, I put in the effort early, and that's kind of like what I, said. That was the premise of the book. I mean, I did this in poker. I did this, with the girls. I mean, I would set up the situation. So I'd put in the work early, and then later on, I would reap the rewards and, have it pretty fucking easy.
Do you think it's cool to have a lot of money and have sex with a lot of different women and show all these different things? Like, do you think it's cool to show those things?
I don't know if it's cool. I mean, I think it's cool to do what you want to do and not worry about like other people's perception. I think a lot of people like handcuffed by like what their wife would think or what their, family would think or what their business would think. Like so many people want to be doing a lot of this shit, maybe not on the level that I did it, but like they have to hide it, and I think like being open and honest with what you're doing and not like shying away, I think there's something cool about that. And I think that's authentic and I think that's rare. And I think too many people worry about, oh, what are they going to think if I do this or whatever. And I took the opposite approach when I would date these women, and I would just be fucking fully honest, and they would see exactly what was going on, as opposed to the guys that like sneakily try and fuck a bunch of girls on the side and, ends up with it blowing up in their face.
Yeah, that's definitely the best way to live life, is try and be as honest as you can with people, and doing something that people don't like. At least if you're honest about it, they'll respect that. Whereas if you lie about it, they won't respect you, and they'll be upset as well. So I like the direct, honest approach. I think that's a great way of living life.
I look at it like ripping a Band-Aid. It's like initially painful telling somebody something that they don't want to hear, but in the long run, not having to like worry about remembering your lies or worrying about getting caught or whatever. It's like, it's so much more liberating, So yeah, I've been like and you can ask, any of my friends, we have mutual friends, ask Perkins how fucking honest I am. And you find out when people are honest, when they fucking have to answer questions that are very uncomfortable that they don't want to fucking say. And it. Like if you ask a girl, how many guys have you fucked? And she says 178, like, she's telling the truth. Like, what girl's going to lie? So the more they tell you shit like that, or like, how many guys you fucked last week? And she's like, oh, like, I got really drunk and I had a foursome with these football players and I feel like a total whore. Like if she tells me that, I'd be like, well, goddamn. I may not want to date her, but at least she's honest, So
yeah, there's certainly respect there, and anyone admitting that they had the train run on them is not afraid to say the truth. What would you say is your biggest regret in life?
Man, that's hard to say. It's funny because I've said this before in other interviews. A lot of times, like the things that you thought were going to be your biggest regrets are actually the things that have been the best for you.
It's like when you get interviewed and someone says, "What's your biggest weakness?" And they're like, "My biggest weakness is that I have no weakness," or like, "My biggest weakness is that all my strengths are so good." It's a weakness.
No, I'm not trying to say that. I'm just saying, like, for instance, like when I got kicked out of SEAL training, that was like a fucking big blow. I spent a lot of time doing that. And I didn't graduate. And that was, that to me was really shitty. And it was like tough to deal with that. And I was like a monkey on my back for a while. But like I said, other times, a lot of my classmates died. I would have missed the poker at the right time. Like I wouldn't have gotten into poker when, nobody knew how to fucking play poker. And I just, my whole life trajectory would have changed. I would have gone to college, later. And, as, like towards the end of my UF stint, like the guys that were coming in were a lot more nerdy. The girls weren't as hot, like the GPAs went up, and it just like the college experience changed. Pike got kicked off campus. So I just like look at a lot of these little things, and had any of it changed, I wouldn't have ended up where I'm at right now. And I feel pretty good about where I'm at. So I've had well more than my fair share of fuck ups in life. Let's not fucking act like I haven't. But would I go back and change them? I don't know, man. I've learned a lot from my fuck ups. I'll probably learn more from my fuck ups than I have from my success. So
what's your biggest regret though? There's got to be at least something that you regret. I know the meme is no regrets or whatever, but there's got to be one regret along the way. Yeah.
Man, like I said, it's a weird thing because if you change one thing, you don't end up where you're at. Like I had regrets about my relationship with Jessa, but had that have like gone a different direction, I wouldn't be where I am. And I feel like I've lived like 10 lifetimes, and I feel like I've got a lot more coming down the pipe, and Ignite's doing really well right now. And I think I have a legitimate, shot at being a billionaire within the next year or two. And I'm excited about what I got coming up, and I'm more than happy with what I've done. I feel like I've like checked most of the boxes that I wanted to check. So I don't know, man. Like I said, I've had plenty of fuck ups and plenty of things that like going back in time, I would have been like, well, obviously I want to fucking graduate SEAL training. Obviously I wouldn't have done this dumb thing or whatever, but I don't know, man. I don't know. I like I said, I'm happy with where I am. So I wouldn't want to change it by altering past stuff.
I asked you your biggest regret, and you threw in there, I might be a billionaire next year. Oh man!
In reference to the fact that I don't want to change where I am right now.
No editing. That was no editing. That just actually happened. I want the record to show.
Yeah. Listen, there's going to be no shortage of dumb fucking things that I say. I'm sure about that. But I feel good about where I'm at. And I think, like I said, if I changed anything along the way, I wouldn't be here. So
Okay, fair enough. What are your future goals? Do you have any upcoming goals or short-term, long-term goals?
I would like to get Ignite to $500 million in sales a year. That's one of my goals.
Where are sales at right now?
Well, we projected in our press release that this quarter, I believe, was going to be around, if you just add the numbers up, I believe around 50 million-ish in sales, a little under maybe, but like around there just for the quarter. So if you extrapolate that out and the growth rate, I think, getting to $500 million a year in sales is very doable. And it's actually kind of like, on the chart of, you look at the sales and where they've been in the past and where they're going. I think that's a realistic goal.
Okay, cool. I wanted to ask you about the being a cop thing. I've heard you talk about being a cop in several different places. And is the cop thing actually a cop, or is it a real? Can you walk us through the becoming a cop story?
Yeah, it's in the book once again. For a guy that's very
But
interested.
Dan, we have.
I'm happy to answer it.
People listening. Not every listener and viewer is going to have read the book, right?
I'm just giving you shit. Yeah, no, 100%. So the cop thing. So back, I believe, I don't remember if it was, I think it was around 2014. I became a reserve cop in New Mexico. And yeah, I was, we served high risk warrants at the U.S. Marshal. I mean, it was a legit thing. I kicked the fucking door in off its hinges and, served a murder warrant. And, it was an interesting deal. It was like a lot of like ex special forces guys. And they basically like would line up, guys, I'm doing a podcast here. What do you, and so they would line up basically like, a bunch of warrants, and then we would go serve them when I was, in town, and you would come every like 6 months, you would do like a 4-day stint. Yeah, that's, I did that for about 4 years.
What happened on the shooting day in Vegas? Because I remember you were actually on the strip, I believe, during the shooting, right? And there was a video of you trying to talk to a cop, or what exactly went down on that? Because there was a big uproar about what you were doing on the strip that day.
Yeah, so I've got the whole video. It's about 6 minutes. And the shooter, I think, was shooting for like 8 minutes total. So yeah, that was like another misconception, is that, oh, Dan was like running from the fucking shooting and this and that. And he was scared. It was like, you watch the video. I mean, I can upload it on here if you want to see it. I mean, I'm literally like spend the first like minute and a half, like looking for a gun in the cop's car. And then I run to a police barricade, towards the Mandalay. And I asked the cop if I could, get a gun. Cause I thought, there was a fucking guy running around, shooting up the fucking crowd, like Columbine style. And, yeah.
Oh, you guys at the time you couldn't tell where it was coming from. You thought it was in the crowd.
Nobody knew. And then I was like, and then I came back afterwards. Can you please? Thank you. And then after that, I came back and I was like, doing some like help with the first responders and whatever. And I heard them on the radio. Like they had no idea where the shooters were from. They thought there was multiple shooters. They were like, going up the what's it called? The Hooters Hotel. They like stormed that one. There was a guy dead on Las Vegas Boulevard. It was Las Vegas and I think Trop, which was like pretty fucking far down the street. And I was like, I actually like was one of the people who moved the body. So it was like, we really believe that there was multiple shooters the whole fucking time. And I actually, in my video, you can see there's like a muzzle flash coming from the 8th floor. And it was supposed to be the 28th. So I don't know, man. And it sounded like multiple fucking guns in the videos that I have. But yeah, I got a lot of shit for that, which is like kind of funny because we took 2 girls to the hospital. I was there for the fucking whole shooting. And it was like the narrative these fucking idiots in the press were like putting out there was like that you're not supposed to run from it. I mean, like you're not supposed to run from a fucking active shooter situation. Like what are you supposed to stand?
Well, I think people weren't upset that you were running away or calling you scared. I didn't see all the press.
Literally, the headline was like Dan Bilzerian was a coward or something like that.
Well, that's just stupid. I'm not afraid to say it here on the podcast. If someone shoots at me, I'm going to run. Just heads up. That's just going to be my thing. I'm going to try and not die. I think some people were upset that you were trying to kind of play soldier and ask people for guns and trying to make it kind of about you trying to save the day rather than help people. That's what I heard people complaining about.
Yeah, I didn't even know my friend was filming. And a lot of people also said that I like came back later and like tried to film showing that it was like, no, this is like the guy only shot for 8 minutes and we have a film of like almost the entire thing. Like bullets are literally hitting the ground by us while we're running. And so, yeah, if you watch the video, you'll clearly see like, I wasn't really like scared at all. I was running towards the shooter and I was like trying to fucking actively get a gun. And, like, I don't know. I mean, this is not like, listen, all the news interviews afterwards were like, oh, we want to do a hero piece on you. And I basically told them to get fucked. And then this Marine started like talking shit. And then they like ran with his article, because I refused to do the interviews. So this was not like me trying to like, act like I was some fucking big hero. And I really didn't like do anything fucking, amazing or whatever. It's not that. It's just like, I was just shocked that they were mischaracterizing, what happened is like, oh, Dan's running or he's trying to like pretend like he's helped. It was just like, it was nonsense. Like I said, if you want, I'll upload the video right here. And you can watch it and make your own assessment.
Sure. Can we easily upload this?
I don't know. I can just
airdrop
the tech. The computer, I think. Hang on one second.
If not, I'm sure we can figure out some other way to upload it. Is it publicly available online? I'm sure it is, right? The video.
That's a good question. I think it would be.
Also, I hope we don't get this content taken down for violence or something, depending on what's in the video.
Yeah, I mean, you don't see. I mean, there's a girl that's shot, but you don't see it or any blood. I mean, you don't really. It's not close enough to see. So how
about you send it to me afterwards, and then I can just like talk about it or whatever. Because I don't want to. I don't want to lose.
You could probably find it on YouTube if you look up. Okay. Dan Bilzerian, like full shooting video. You could probably have your boy find it and then throw it on here. And I could walk you through it. I don't think anybody's like really seen the full video. And you watch, like I said, watch the full video and make your assessment. I mean, I think like you'll watch that video and be like, damn, like they really fucking, were full of shit in the press about.
I'd like to see that video. I just don't want to lose this one because of breaking terms of service or whatever.
Oh, got it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
No problem.
You know how the censorship can be. I want to kind of bring this back full circle to talking about what we were talking about before and just kind of the body of work that I've done relating to you. I've certainly tried in my career making videos to be fair in my assessment of what people are doing. I have done a lot of poking fun at people, and poking fun at people includes short edited clips that are for humor. And I think when you have a very short clip of someone in a way that's funny, I think that people recognize that that's a joke. So when I take a small clip and I place it next to someone saying something where it's out of context or out of position, whatever you want to say, out of order, it's done so in a humorous way. And I think the audience can tell when that's happening. And I think a lot of the clips that you've been upset that I put together were jokes.
I mean, I would disagree. I think Bill Perkins would. I mean, I know Bill Perkins disagrees. I have two other videos. I mean, I have the one about GG where you kind of like chop that up. And Bill actually feels like that one's more of a misrepresentation than the prior one. I have those here if you want to see those. Those are actually pretty short.
We should have uploaded all these beforehand. How do you upload that?
I have it on here. Let's see here. I can.
All right, bear with us one moment for the chat, guys. If you're an audio listener. Okay, here we go. Cool. Well, that seems like it's easy.
Half of it talking about something else other than.
Okay, here we go.
Then they spent half of it talking about something else other than dissing me, and it was just a random.
The floor guy had to go out to the blackjack table or whatever, the poker gift or whatever the fuck it was.
I don't know, sort of attack at me for using solvers or something. What was that? What did I just watch? What was this video? It's confusing.
Okay, so it clearly was not about you, and this is the original one. This is it. It's uploaded, so you can play that.
All right, you've managed to figure out how to use this platform pretty well. I actually feel like I know less about it than you. Where's the other one?
Let's see here. Did it not pop up? Okay.
Oh, is it this one?
It's
you have taken into account, with the
old one. It said only 3. Maybe I can delete one of these.
Yeah, I'm gonna delete one of the old ones. Oh, let's see.
There we go. I got it out.
Nice. Let's take a look at this one. Nice fish tank.
Thank you.
An ideal fun table for you?
A bunch of Saudis that don't.
What would be an ideal fun table for you?
A bunch of Saudis that don't know what beats what.
Have you played with people like that?
I actually, I think it was in 2008. I won, fuck, what was it? It was like, I don't know, it was around a $500,000 pot at the Bellagio in Bobby's room. And the floor guy had to go out to the blackjack table or whatever, the poker gift, or whatever the fuck it was, the gift shop, and buy a card that ranked poker hands so that the guy knew that my full house beat his flush. That's what I miss about fucking poker.
Okay, so clearly I'm making fun of the fact that the video is titled Doug Polk. What's the title of this video? Where is this?
I mean, they titled it "I'm much better than Doug Polk," but I mean, I think the premise there was that I was like clearly not talking about you, and then you kind of like misrepresented it that I was like talking about you and solvers and like want to make me look stupid and whatever. Like I said, I think
that's not what happened there. What happened there was the video is titled "I'm much better than Doug Polk." I clicked it. The first half is talking about me. The second half is just random stuff that has nothing to do with "I'm much better than Doug Polk." And in my video, I'm confused about that.
I mean, I feel like it was pretty clear what I was talking about there. I mean, I say, you know, rich Saudis, guys that don't know how to, you know, play poker. And then I give a reference of a guy that literally, I mean, lost a $500,000 pot and didn't know that a full house beat a flush, you know?
Yeah, but dude, what if I posted a video and it said, I am much better than Dan Bilzerian? And then in the first half,
you literally do. You put my name in your video, and then it's like 18 minutes of like nonsense, and then I'm at the end for like 30 seconds. You've done that.
Sure. But what if I did this? I post a video and I say, I'm much better than Dan Bilzerian. In the first minute, I talk about how much better I am. And in the second, I talk about my favorite spaghetti restaurants.
I mean, but you literally,
if I did that and you made a video,
you did the opposite of that. You put my name in there, and then you talk about like fucking Phil Hellmuth and all this other tournament shit for 20 minutes. And then at the end, you like get to me. So
that's fine. If you want to make fun of me for that, that's fine. But what I'm saying is, if I make a video and I said I'm much better than Dan Bilzerian, and I lead with being better than you, and then I fill out half a minute talking about pasta, and then you make a video and you say, what the fuck is that shit? And I go, oh, and now you're going to take my pasta quotes out of it. Doesn't matter. They're separate.
First of all, I didn't put up this video. This video was done by GG Poker. I had nothing to do with it. Number one, I didn't label it. I didn't edit it. I had nothing to do with it. Number two. But that being said, I'm talking about poker throughout the whole video. It's not like we're going to pasta. It's not some other subject. So while we talk about you, we're talking about poker. They chose to label the video that. I don't control that.
That's not my fault. That's not my fault. The GG did that.
What I'm saying is your video is talking about like, you know, you took a clip of that where I'm talking about this guy that didn't know hand rankings. And you're like, is this an attack on me about solvers? And it's like, obviously not about you or solvers. So it's a misrepresentation of what I'm talking about.
I'm talking about, maybe there's a little bit of confusion here in that I say that after it shows that clip. And I understand that it is a tiny bit confusing. But what I'm saying in this clip is this half of the video doesn't make sense for this title of the video. We can agree on that, right? We can agree that this is a weirdly titled video for the half that they included.
I mean, it starts with you. I mean, like I said, you've done plenty of videos where it's about me, but or you say that it's about me, but then you literally talk about like everybody else for 20 minutes.
Sure, and you can make fun of me for that, and that's just the game. That's fine.
I get it, but like I said, that you're like pointing out that that's fucked up when you do that. I didn't do this.
I'm not pointing out that it's fucked up. I'm pointing out that it's funny. Those are different. It's funny to have I am much better than Doug Polk, and then a half of the video is about hand rankings. That's funny.
She asked me who I like to play against because I was saying that you guys play. If you watch the beginning of the video, I talk about you guys playing against really good players, and I'm saying I was always trying to do the opposite. I was trying to play against bad players, and then she said, "Okay, well, what's your dream scenario?" And I'm like, a bunch of rich Saudis that don't know hands, and then I gave an example. So I think it's like very congruent with the video. It's not like some random pasta example interjected at the end. It's like very congruent, and it ties into the video, and it ties into exactly what I was talking about, which is, you know, you and the online players playing against a pool of like really good, you know, players and like eking it out. And the beginning of this video was like whether or not, you know, I could compete with you, I'm better than you or whatever. And I said, I believe that I'm a better poker player than Doug Polk in the sense that I have used, you know, all the tools in poker, which is like game selection, which is, you know, understanding table image, getting people to play bad against you. I mean, there's so many aspects of poker that aren't just playing the best GTO, strategy or whatever. And, and a lot of people overlook those, like for instance, Phil Hellmuth, he gets like a lot of shit, but the guy does win a lot of fucking tournaments. So like, is he fundamentally a sound player? No, but like he does win a lot. Like his results are pretty good. And so like, what is he doing that's giving him good results? Is he just playing, is he getting people to play bad against him? Is he good at reading people? I don't know like exactly how Phil Hellmuth wins as much as he does, because I think he's fucking terrible. But like, regardless, the results are the results. And to me, when I say, in poker, your bank account is the scoreboard, I'm saying that not in the sense of, where you're trying to talk about like Bezos. I'm like, no, for people that play poker for a living, the bank account is the scoreboard. That is how well they've done, in my opinion, and so part of that is taking shots. Part of that's not going broke. Part of that's bankroll management. Part of that's picking good horses. I mean, there's a million things to like making money as a poker player. And I think the online community hyper focuses on just like who plays the best GTO exploitative strategy and blah, blah, blah.
Well, because it's hard, dude. I mean, it's the same reason why when we look at the pinnacle of anything, we have a lot of respect for these people. We don't respect top basketball players because they make a lot of money. We respect them because they're really good at basketball. Part of that is they make a lot of money. But when you look at when you talk about the top poker players, it's really very, very, very difficult to get good at poker, and that's what people are having pride in. Being good at the game.
I get that, and that's a part of it. But part of being good at the game, in my opinion, is getting people to play bad against you, understanding how they're viewing you, understanding how you can exploit the way they view you, understanding how they play when they're steamed, understanding how they're going to play versus you, understanding how they're going to play when you put a lot of pressure on them, how they're going to play when they're losing versus, when they're winning. There's so many different factors. How they're going to play, if you fuck their girlfriend, or how they're going to play if they've, been getting slaughtered in the market, or how they're going to play if they're fucking drunk, or, whatever, they're high on cocaine and they're not looking at their goddamn cards. I mean, there's a lot of different aspects, in the private games that you have to take into account that a lot of like online guys don't even think about. And
yeah, but you're talking a lot of shit about the guys that are doing something very hard at a really high level. The top people who play poker have to work extremely difficult and are very sharp, smart people. And the reason that people have respect and have respect for those people is because what they're doing is way harder than is the guy who's tilted about the market's going to tilt his face off right now. It's a lot harder to know what 6% raise is in a spot.
I disagree. I mean, I think one of them is a lot of rote memorization, a lot of work, and the other one is like understanding social cues. It's like understanding social dynamics. It's, it's positioning yourself to be in good spots. It's taking risks when you might not want to take risks. It's understanding how you're being perceived. It's understanding psychology. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. I mean, how as Andrew Roble, how can I get into these games? Hey, if I stake the guy that's running the games that everybody perceives as being a shitty player, will that get me access? If I say, hey, the game's not going to get set up and Robert's not going to play if I'm not in there. Like, he thought outside the box. He was able to weasel his way into these games, and he made a shitload of money. Antonio took a different approach. Antonio started doing private games, and because he ran private games, he was able to take pieces of pros. He was able to get tips. He was able to interject himself into the game when the game got short and beat the guys for big money when they were tired. I mean, there's many ways to skin a fucking cat here. And what I'm saying is I think the poker community overlooks a lot of these different ways because a lot of these guys are quietly fucking taking tens of millions of dollars out of the fucking poker, world without being noticed. Like I said, like Andrew Roble, like fucking Antonio Esfandiari. Whereas these guys online, I mean, I don't know, dude. I don't see a lot of these guys online making a shitload of fucking money because they're playing against a bunch of fucking like super good players, which is fine. Like, hats off to them, respect. Like, they're good at what they do, but to then go and say like, oh, this is like the only thing that's respectable, I just disagree. And I think the game's a lot more dynamic than they make it out to be.
Who's saying that's the only thing that's respectable?
Well, when they say that, it's impossible for me to have won, in poker and blah, 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 and like this and that, I'm not good enough to win. It's like, okay, well, I did.
Who says it's impossible for you to win? I don't understand.
Well, I mean, after watching your videos, there was a lot of videos that surfaced online and a lot of people that were like talking shit about the Ignite thing that were referencing your videos and like your depiction of like my Rogan answer, and a lot of those people latched onto that and then was like, oh, well, Doug Polk's a respected guy in the poker community, which you obviously are, and your opinion is respected. So when you say something, people listen, whether you think it's a joke or not. It has implications, and those implications, turned out to being that people think, oh, I'm full of shit or I'm not telling the truth when I fucking was. And so it's like for a lot of my life, I didn't really care, like I said, because it was gaining me access to those games. But, I mean, I don't know. I take a lot of pride in my word, and everybody that knows me knows that I'm a fucking honest guy. I mean, there's a reason why people will loan me millions of fucking dollars in third world countries that don't, without an IOU. It's like, because I've always fucking paid my debts. I've always been honorable. I've always fucking kept my word. And, people that know me know that. So when, that gets questioned, and when people talk shit and say that I'm dishonest, that bothers me. I don't care if people say I'm an asshole. I don't care if people say I suck at poker, like none of that. But like the honesty thing does bother me.
Taking a step back here and looking at this from my view, we see you have millions of dollars. You come from a very rich family, and I'm supposed to believe that you've made every dollar from poker. You got nothing from your family, and that you are one of the greatest winning poker players of all time. And in all my content, hold on, let me finish.
Okay.
In all my content, I have not said that is impossible. That's not true. What I've said very consistently is that is very unlikely to me. I've said that time and time again. And then when other people want to quote me and say that, if then they go farther steps from there, that's really not my problem. That's their problem, because I've said that very specifically.
I mean, I think there was one situation where you were like, you played the clip where I said that I made all my money from poker, and you're like, bullshit. Or you said something like, basically like,
I'm a fucking astronaut, I believe is what you're talking about.
Something. Yeah. Basically like, he's full of shit. I mean, this is, in so many words. So, I mean, and it's fine. Listen, you've got the right to your opinion, and I'm not actually upset about that, because I don't have a right to be upset about that. You can have your opinion. You can look at me and be like, hey, his parents had money. I've watched him play. I think he fucking sucks, whatever. My assessment is that he didn't make his money from poker. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. I get it, but you also could ask around. Enough of mutual friends of ours. You could do some digging and do some research. You could even have called me on the phone, ask me mine. Because, if I was reporting a story, one of the things that I have learned, and I've made this mistake, so I'm not going to hold it against you, but, I have judged people before I've spoken to them, or I've just listened to one side of the story. And so many times when I hear the other side of the story, I'm like, oh, well, fuck, if I would have known that, whatever. And so you can ask me, you don't have to believe me. You don't even have to fucking take it all in, but just hear the side and then make your assessment, right? Like, you don't have to because I said something, be like, oh, well, Dan said this. You don't have to include it if you don't believe it. But I'm just saying, I would ask and I would listen, but that's just me. I also am not really making YouTube videos and reporting the news or whatever. But to me, I think journalists should have, I don't know. I think they should have some obligation to do as much research as they can before reporting the news. And for instance, before this podcast, I asked Bill to have you read the gambling section, because I felt like, look, and you said to him, oh, well, just because he wrote it doesn't mean it's true. Okay, that's fine. But you'd at least hear my side, and then you could make your assessment. You could be like, listen, I've read the book. I think you're full of shit. I've talked to you. I think you're full of shit. That's fine. You can have your opinion. But I would just get the information.
Here's the problem with that, though.
I can.
The problem with that is and this happens to me a lot, right? Every single time I say something and the person doesn't like it, they go, you fucked up, you're wrong, you did the wrong thing. And so what happens is, now I put a lot of content out in the world, and I do research what I talk about, and anything that I bring up factually, I have clips and evidence, or even just factual stuff from articles, and I show those. But then people tell me, oh, you fucked up, you're wrong, because they don't like what I did. And then what happens is, now every story that comes up, it starts to become expected of me that I need to talk to everyone. I need to have calls. I need to go back and forth. I need to do this. And it's not realistic for me to cover every story like that. And then it turns into, who do I just give preference to some people or not other people? And it gets down this road of, I'm just reporting what I see happening online. And I'm giving caveats like I did in the vast majority of content on you, other than the parts where I was clearly making a joke. When I say I'm a fucking astronaut, I'm not I'm not at the academy training to go to the moon. I'm joking.
You're saying that I'm a liar, which is fine. I actually don't have a problem with you saying that I'm a liar and saying that you don't believe what I said. I don't have a problem. That's your opinion, and you have a right to the opinion. What I do have a problem with is you misrepresenting my answers when you're chopping up videos. And basically, when I said people think that I got my money from my parents, and you chop it to where I say I got my money from my parents, that is an absolute misrepresentation of what I've said. And also in the beginning of that video, when you chop up a bunch of ums and then cut over to Joe Rogan's response, which was not a response to what I was saying at the time, and make me look like a liar, that I have issue with, because now you're fucking, you know, you're basically fabricating my answer and you're making it fit your narrative. And that's, you know, that to me is dishonest.
I think that a lot of those clips are quite clearly in jest.
I
And so
disagree. I mean, like I said, I would bet you on it. Bill will also bet you on it, and we can have, you know, we can just pick somebody like Phil Galfond, like somebody that you respect, that you think would be honest.
I don't know, man. Last ruling I went to from Phil Galfond, my opponent was taking 30 seconds to play their button, and he said that he thought it might have been okay. I don't know if I can go back to him.
Maybe not him. I'm just throwing a name out. Maybe it's Brian Rast. I mean, I don't know. Somebody that we both believe would, you know, and when it doesn't have to be $1 million, it could be less, whatever you want. But like the point is, I'm willing to bet that somebody that watches these clips would say that you're misrepresenting and mischaracterizing what I'm saying, and you're not being fair. And it's not what you said to Bill about, you know, like, oh, I'm just, you know, I don't remember what the fucking quote was. I mean, I can read it, but I don't feel like it was, what you said was, I reported the facts accurately and was fair in my assessment of likely events. I disagree. I don't think that's reporting the facts accurately, because you mischaracterized what I said. So by definition, you're not reporting the facts accurately.
Well, let me say this then. The moment that I start to make jokes, which is people, if you've watched my content, you probably have not. I make a lot of jokes in my content. Usually they're pretty bad. It's a very common theme of my videos is I make jokes about things. Keeping that in mind, when you watch one of my videos, you know at some point I'm going to poke fun at stuff and tell jokes.
You can tell jokes, but what I'm saying is you don't misrepresent people's answers. That's not what you do. Like when you cut out what I said and you said, my parents gave me all my money, people will take that and be like, Dan is admitting that his parents gave him all his money. And when Joe Rogan asked me, did you get your money from poker? And you had me do this stumbling tirade where I said, and you take out a key word, which is that's a common misconception. You took out a key phrase there that I said immediately. That's a common misconception. And just go to me stuttering and then come to a thing. You're misrepresenting my answer. And so by definition, I think that's, you know, mischaracterizing, and it's not honest. And so
I'm willing to say
joke, I disagree.
I'm willing to say that the parents gave me all the money bit was over the line. I'm fine. I'm fine admitting that. The stumbling one, I'm not willing to, because you danced around the question for several minutes saying
no, the first thing
not
that
answering
I said
directly.
Is it's a common misconception. And
you said it's a weird thing.
I said it's a common misconception. It's the first thing I said. And then I said it's a weird thing because having the trust fund gave me access to these games. So I never really told anybody. That was the first interview that I ever really said that I made my money from poker, because up until that point, I was playing a lot of these fucking private games and playing a lot of fucking big high stakes. And I didn't want people to think that I had made all my money from poker. So I just never answered the question.
The reason that I know that my bit makes sense is because Joe Rogan had to then ask you again the same question, because you did a loop of talking about a bunch of stuff and then didn't answer the question. And when I answered
it very directly.
And then you did, but I'm making fun of the loop that we went on that was not the answer to the question. And I think putting together clips of you not answering the question is actually fair in that scenario. I'll admit that the other one is over the line.
It's completely over the line. It's
the
like
other one is, I'm with you.
It's like asking somebody, like, did you rape this girl? And I'm like, I did not rape this girl. And you took out the fucking not. I mean,
we don't need the rape examples. I think maybe
perfect example. Like, did you kill this person? I did not kill them. And then you chop out the not. I did kill them. I mean, it's an absolute misrepresentation of what I said. You couldn't have misrepresented it anymore.
I thought in that moment that clip was clearly a joke because it was a short clip, and obviously, in my opinion, I thought we were joking around. But in retrospect, I think that was a little over the line. But the first one, you have to be able to admit that when he asked you that, you did a loop and you did say a bunch, and you went down different paths that weren't answering the question.
Because I didn't really want to answer the question because I was playing fucking high stakes. But I didn't. What's wrong with my... Because you made it seem like I was lying, and I was not fucking lying. I was explaining why. I was like, well, you know, it's funny because a lot of people think that I had this fucking trust fund, but my parents didn't actually give me any money. And so I go into this explanation of the whole thing and how that gave me access to the games and how I leaned on that and why I leaned on that, thing, which was not, which was not like the cause of me getting money. Like I didn't get it till I was 39. So it's like, people thought that I did actually have a trust fund. I just didn't have access to it. So it was a weird thing because I did have it. People asked me if I had it. I said I had it. That's what got me into the games, but it didn't do me any good financially. Like I had no access to that wealth. So it was a weird thing. It wasn't like a direct answer because I did have a trust fund. I used that to get into games that like helped my image. People talked about it, but I didn't have access to it.
Yeah, but my video, you've said this here today, you didn't know if you wanted to answer or not because it was a big decision. And when he asked you, you did say a lot of random things and maybe not random in your mind.
Random. I was explaining.
Okay, forget the random. You said a lot of things about poker or about money or about your money, but you did not answer the question that he was getting at. And my clip was putting together small parts of that showed that you didn't exactly know if you wanted to answer or not, and that was the joke that I was making about it.
I mean,
and
dude,
so,
you literally had a reaction from him that looked like, oh, this guy's full of shit that you just threw in there. Then you extended, you took out my answers, and then you basically said, and then you had a clip in there where it said, my parents gave me the money. And then you cut to my parents. It's like you couldn't have misrepresented that and made it fit your narrative any more than you did. Like you literally made me look like I was lying and that I got all my money from my parents. And that's what I was saying. So like, I don't know how you could not consider that a mischaracterization of like what happened, but like most people aren't going to go and then go from that to watch a 3-hour Joe Rogan interview and cut to the 30-minute mark to find that and find out what I actually really said. So they're just going to take your clip. And that's what they did when they made all these YouTube videos talking shit. And they're just like, oh, well, Doug Polk said this and look at Dan's answer when Joe Rogan asked him, and Dan said specifically that his parents gave him the money. So it's like,
they're quoting someone who they're quoting me without doing any research on what I said. So basically, they're just trying to take my clip where I am trying to make a joke. It was a bad joke. It was out of line. And I've admitted that 3 times down this podcast for that one. But that's also, they have some responsibility there. And additionally, I'm defending the first part of this, not the second.
I mean, regardless, like I said, even if we just focus on the second, it's just a misrepresentation of what was said. And it's totally out of context. And if you want to just say that that's a joke, I mean, and try and use that as like an excuse, I think it's a misrepresentation. I think it's a gross misrepresentation. I think it's as gross a misrepresentation as you could get. And I think other people would agree with me. And that's why I was offering the bet. It's not like a posturing thing. It's not like, whatever to get clicks. It's like, I really believe that I'm right. I know that you probably believe that you're right. Bill agrees with me. We're both willing to put our money where our mouth is. I mean, I don't know. It's like, to me, I think it's either, take the bet or it's an apology, whatever. But, you can't change the past. But I think it was pretty egregious. And I think it's like definitely done damage. And I think people, would assume that I'm full of shit because of that. I think a lot of conclusions have been drawn because of that. I think you have a lot of respect in the poker world. And with respect comes responsibility. Like I realize that my fucking platform is big. So if I ever use my platform to like talk shit about somebody and then found out what I said wasn't true, I would feel a moral obligation to correct that.
Here's how I feel about this. How I feel is that I've been extremely measured on my takes about you overall. I've done a lot of videos, and the vast majority of them have been very fair. And I have said a lot of caveats, and I've in places been overly nice about the likelihood of you winning money. And I've said it's likely you've won money. And then I have one moment where there's an edited clip that was an attempt at a joke, whether it ended up being a joke or not. It was an attempt to be funny, and then it didn't hit, and it was a little over the line. And now it's like, Doug fucked up. Doug's wrong here. What about all of the good things that I did? And what about the fact that there is some precedent here, Dan?
Good things? I mean, I would also argue that
all the other stuff I've said. This reminds me a little bit where, and it's an old argument I'd have with Negreanu, where Negreanu would say, Doug only makes money from tagging people. But then you look at my stats, it's like 85% of my views or 80% or whatever it is now are from teaching people how to play poker. And so, yes, I'm a human being. I've done hundreds of videos. It's totally possible for me to make a mistake. And I think that the editing on that wasn't clear enough that it was a joke. So I'll admit that. But at the same time, my overall character of your work, or my overall representation of your work and who you are, has been very fair.
I mean, I would disagree. I mean, I think because you've done some videos that were not completely slanderous, that doesn't excuse this one. And so to me, it's like, I don't think any of your videos were positive in any way, shape, or form. I mean, they certainly didn't help me in any way. I mean, they got a bunch of like people in the poker world saying that, oh, Dan sucks at poker. He didn't make his money in poker. I mean, that was the narrative that you were pushing. So to try and like pretend like your videos helped me out for the most part, but that this one was bad or this one crossed the line, I mean, I just totally disagree.
I will bet you 100K that my most popular video on you is fair, and we can pick a panel.
Why are you picking and choosing one video?
It's the one that is the most popular. It's the biggest video.
Okay, well, I mean, I would argue that, if we look at what I've put out about you versus what you put out about me,
but that's not what we're talking about here, right?
Well, it kind of is. Like, you've put out something about me that's completely slanderous and false, and you're pointing to another video and be like, well, I did this video and this one wasn't bad. It's like, that doesn't excuse it. Like, you basically saying that I'm a liar and misquoting me, saying that my parents gave me my money when that's the opposite of what I said. I mean, I think that's egregious. And like I said,
what more do you want from me here than to say that when I did that, it was a joke and I think that it was over the line and wrong? What more do you want? I've said that. I can say it a sixth time. I can say it a seventh time.
I think one apology is it. I would like it not to be characterized as a joke. I'd just be like, listen, I fucked up. I think this was wrong, and I'm sorry, and we'll never talk about it again.
Right, but what I'm talking about is I've probably covered you for hours, okay? And there was one clip edited joke. And then you're saying
I think the beginning was not okay either. I mean, I think
you just said to me that you think that the overall work that I've done has not been fair. And I think that it has been fair. And I think that the most popular video does matter a lot, that one is fair. That's what most people have seen.
I disagree, and I would bet. So I don't know.
Okay. So I obviously I can't bet you on this one line that I've already said sorry for. But I'm willing to bet.
If you've apologized for that, then that's all that needs to be said.
Okay. I apologize for that one. I'm not caving on the other one. The ums stand.
I mean, okay. I think the whole thing was out of line. I mean, you've got your opinion. You've apologized for what you feel like is out of line. I mean, that's your prerogative. Like I said, I don't think that the video was fair. And I think that a lot of people believe that I didn't make my money because of that. And I think that it's had a negative impact. So, you got clicks and, you got views and whatever, but I don't know. Like I said, it's a difference of opinion. We don't have to harp on it. I mean, I've explained my side. We've seen the video, and, people can make their decision.
What about an argument that we had a few years ago on Twitter where you misquoted me?
What did I say?
It was, we talked back and forth and you said that, let me pull this up. Okay. I will pull this up here. I don't want to show my DMs. That seems to happen every time I fucking pull this up.
Yeah, let's see who's sliding in those motherfuckers.
It's no one fun, man. Unless you like older dudes that play poker, then maybe. All right, let's see here.
Mine are mostly dudes too.
Nice. Okay, so let's see here. It was in this argument where we were talking about. Oh, here we go. Where is this? Where is this?
I'm going to take a piss real quick. I'll be right back.
Yeah, this is getting pretty off topic anyway.
20 seconds. I'll be right back.
Where did this go? I feel like this was in here somewhere. I have to find this different time, chat. Selling my Bitcoin was at 65.5K was wrong, huh? Some things don't age well. It's all good. Where is this? There's a quote in here somewhere. I don't know why I can't find this.
Get it?
I can't find the exact quote, but here is my response to it. So There's something in here, because this is responding to something that you said, and I was looking at this earlier today. Oh, yeah, you said I didn't make my money playing poker. There's another quote here that I can't find. It must have been a different combo. But yeah, I mean, you've told me several times, and I'm just gonna close Twitter because I can't find this quickly anyway. You've told me several times, Dan, that there are quotes that I've said about you that aren't true. Like for example, you've said this a bunch today. You said that I said that you didn't make money in poker. You didn't win $50 million in poker. You messaged me that yesterday. I never said that.
I was paraphrasing. I mean, I wasn't like directly quoting you, obviously. I'm just saying, like, if you watch that video and you're like, yeah, and I'm an astronaut, that's to me is you saying that I didn't fucking make the money in poker. So, I don't know. I mean, if you want to split hairs, I mean, I didn't give you a direct quote that was false. I just said, you're basically saying that I didn't make my money from poker, which I think is a very fair statement considering the videos that you put out and the statements you made.
No,
so,
in my videos, I said that you made money in poker.
You said you said it's extremely unlikely that I made all my money from poker. I don't remember. Like I said, you've done so many videos, I can't quote you, but the general gist of it, if you watch,
I feel.
But the general gist of it, if you watch them, is that I got my money from my dad, and that I didn't play poker, and both of those or that I didn't make my money from poker, and both of those are untrue, or that I didn't make all my money from poker. I literally made every fucking dollar, every significant dollar from poker. I mean, that was my only source of income, other than like, I made fucking $500,000 funding a movie, or you know what I mean, little shit that doesn't matter. But the point is, like, I was a professional poker player, and the bulk of my income came from poker, and it was no help from my parents whatsoever. So, I don't know how I could be more clear about that. I mean, like I said, you don't have to believe me. If you want to read the book, it literally lines it out in there, like who I won money from, when, the exact timeline.
But the thing is, the book doesn't really prove anything. It's your book.
No, I have people in there. I have Andrew Roble gives a fucking full statement in there. Antonio Sfandiari gives a full statement. Rick Solomon gives a statement. Mike Matisow does a vignette. There's Dan Fleischman. There's like multiple people. Molly Bloom. Rick. There's tons of credible people in the poker world that have done vignettes in the book talking about my playing poker, my experience with them. I mean, I could read you Andrew Robles. I mean, he basically said that he didn't think that I was a great poker player, but he saw tons of people play super fucking bad against me, and I always ended up with all the fucking money.
The question though is these people aren't going to know your finances, and that's really the point here. The point is where the money came from.
For 12 years, he's going to know if I'm a winning player. I mean, he has to take pieces of me. So, I mean, if he thought that I sucked, he probably wouldn't have done that.
So what you said to me was you've made numerous statements saying I'm not a winning player, that I didn't get my bankroll from poker, and I didn't win $50 million in poker. I have never done the first or third thing for sure. And even the second one, I said it's very unlikely. So you have said things. You have misquoted what you believe to be. I mean, that's in a text to you. That's not what I'm putting on the internet. It's a big difference. You said something similar on the internet. I mean, I'll find it eventually. I don't think that what I'm saying, I don't think I'm mischaracterizing, your statements or your thoughts towards me and, what I've done in the poker community. I mean, I think if people watched your videos, I think the takeaway would be that A, I suck at poker, B, my dad gave me my money, and C, that I did not win all my money from poker. I think those are three very fair statements that if we had people sit down and watch your videos, they would come away with that conclusion that you thought that those three things. They would come away with the conclusion that those things are the most likely result. Yeah. Because they would come away with the conclusion that that's what you believe. Okay, well, what am I supposed to do then when I say I believe and I think? How is that my fault if then they leave thinking that? No. Listen, I didn't want to come on here talking about that. Like I said, you have the right to believe whatever you want. Like, I'm not here telling you what you need to believe and that you're an asshole for saying that you think that I'm a liar or whatever. My issue is you misrepresenting what I'm saying and you cutting up clips to mischaracterize my responses. You can have whatever opinion you want. Yeah, I would appreciate it if it was a little bit more based on fact, but that's not the issue. The issue is the mischaracterization. What about this? Last year, you said on GG Poker that I said I'd give you 10-1 odds in a match for $1 million to $10 million. Remember saying that? I think you did say that, or you. I never said that. No. It wasn't you. It was Herolibus, I think, that said that. Herolibus said that he would give me 10-1
if I played you. It wasn't about you.
Yeah. So you posted online and said, Doug said he'd give me 10-1 his 10
No,
win
I
limit.
didn't say Doug.
You
said
did. You
that.
said it in the chat. Yes, you did. I saw this online, and then everyone sent it to me, and I said that's not true. So
No,
what about that?
I said I would get 10-1 on playing Doug Polk or something like that, but it was coming from Herolibus because he's the one that offered me it, and then he retracted it.
Okay.
So I would play you for sure 10-1 all day, every day. And that's what he offered, and I happily accepted, but then he didn't want to do it, which is fine, whatever. But yeah, I mean, I think that I could train and get reasonably close to your level. I mean, you've spent your fucking life doing this, so you're going to be better. That's your specialty. But I think that I could get good enough to where if I was spotted enough big blinds or given enough odds, that I would be a favorite.
What would be the environment for playing?
Could be online, live, whatever.
I have to think about that. I got to be careful with levying these heads up challenges. Last time I did it as a bluff, and I ended up getting called, and I had to play a heads up challenge for 6 months.
Yeah,
it was a bit of a detour. I remember you needling me about that too. I lost my first couple of sessions. You tweeted, "Congrats! I hear you're killing it." Remember that? Yeah. Guess what? I won. What now?
Saw that. I saw that.
Yeah. How about that?
I felt like Daniel did not put enough pressure on you. That was my thought. I felt like you were always putting him to decisions and he was not. And I feel like in a heads up match, that's an important meta. And I think that that's going to cause him to play a bit more timid. And I think you're going to get paid off more and you're going to get away with more shit, obviously. And you're just going to take control of the match. And when you have control of a heads up match and you're in the driver's seat, I think you've got a pretty big advantage. And so, and I think you're going to be able to predict what he's going to do better in that driver's seat. So,
well, heads up's just very aggressive in general.
Yeah.
You have to be bluffing and calling people pretty constantly, and you have to be putting people in spots. And I think if you come from a full ring background, it's hard to then change gears in the mindset and move from playing in these full ring games where you have to play very tight and then now really gunning for it, because in heads up, every pot you lose, they win, and vice versa. So you can't just throw in the towel and just wait for spots. I mean, to be fair to Daniel, he did learn a lot of stuff that was good, but his heads up's tough, dude. Heads up's very tough.
It is. I think it's easier to go from heads up to ring than vice versa, because a lot of the principles in heads up can be carried over in ring when you raise pre-flop and you get one caller and you are heads up or you're against two guys. I mean, I think there's a lot of principles and board texture stuff and whatever range construction, a lot of things that you're doing in heads up will apply, but the opposite, I think the opposite will fuck you up, because you're not going to have your foot on the gas like you should. And you're not going to be putting pressure like you should if you're a full ring guy that doesn't really understand heads up. So I was more of a heads up player because I just naturally had ADD and I wanted to play more hands and I just liked it.
All right. So this has been a long enough podcast. I want to say thanks for coming on. I do want to say a couple last things. First off, I'll try to be a little more aware with the parts that I'm trying to joke are more clearly jokes, and then also not aggressively editing in that way where it is extremely misleading. So I'll be a little bit more aware on that. I do have one last thing to say, though. I think that there's no need for you to brag so much in a lot of the things that you say. You constantly throw in the millions and the jets and the this and the that. I think a lot of that stuff comes across a lot weaker than just being rich. Let the fish tank speak for you. I don't see a reason to have to throw that stuff in all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you. I also had a long runway of success where I never got any credit for it too. So, I guess maybe the bragging is overcompensating for that. When I basically had to take it on the chin and everybody used to think that I was a fucking shitty poker player. I got all my money from my dad and I was actually out there fucking grinding my ass off, going through the stress of the swings of poker. And, and like I said, I got no credit for it, which is fine. I got the money. I'd rather have the fucking money than the credit. That was always my thing. But I guess now that I'm out of poker, or I've stopped playing so much poker, I feel like, I should get credit where credit's due. And I made the money. I earned that fucking jet. I bought it myself and I'm pretty proud of it. So I don't know. And
how much was the jet?
I don't know. I think it was, man, I bought that thing 8 years ago. So I don't know. I spent $1 million on the interior and the fucking Wi-Fi. I mean, I was pretty happy with it. Honestly, the cost of the jet isn't as much as the annual. Every year that you keep a jet, just operating it is $1.5 million, $2 million a year minimum. Even if you're not flying it. So you know, it was a big milestone, you know, it's a lot of flexibility. And so I guess like when people were talking shit to me, it's like, motherfucker, you're not on my level. You're not where I'm at. So like, I don't know. I would remind them of that.
Why do you have to care what people think, right? Like, I don't understand. Like, why do you need people? If you know you earned all your money and you're happy about it, why does everyone need to know that? Aren't you okay just knowing that you did it?
I mean, for the bulk of my poker career, nobody did know that, and whatever. It's my integrity when that comes in question that bothers me, because I'm like, I take a lot of pride in it, because I don't feel like a lot of people are honest, and I feel like, you know, Benny Binion had a good quote. He's like, people are honest as long as they can afford to be. You know, and I think it's probably one of the rarest things. And it's one of the things that I like the most about Bill, is that I feel like no matter what, he's always going to fucking shoot me straight and be honest. And so when people question my integrity, that bothers me. And so a part of this has become a question of my integrity. I don't care. Like, I never cared about people like give me a high five for my fucking poker wins or any of that shit. It was, you know, the more recent stuff where they're like, oh, Dan's full of shit. Like, he's lying about this. He's lying about that. That's what bothered me.
Okay. All right. Fair. All right. That's going to be it here from the pod. It was a interesting one to say the least. Thanks, Dan, for coming on.
All right. I appreciate it.
All right. And that's going to do it here from us. I'll have to look at my schedule. I don't actually remember the next guest, so I'll figure it out. I'll let you guys know on social. I'll see you guys next week.